Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome to the show. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. It's just approaching 3 minutes past 10 o'clock and it is snowing. I don't care if it's not been snowing where you are or if it's been snowing for the last week where you are. I'm very excited because it's been snowing outside my own window and I'm loving it. As I said to JK, you know, the day you stop being excited about the first bit of snow in winter, then, you know, give up on life. It's very exciting. Could anyone lend me a small child to go sledging with? Mine's away at uni now. I'm not allowed to do things like that anymore. But anyway, I'd love to hear from you today on all the topics we are talking about, and whether you are listening on DAB+ radio or on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or on your connected device. It is, as always, fabulous to have you join us. Don't forget, if you miss anything, you can go to my YouTube page. We've cunningly called it the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. So you've got no excuses. You can find it easily. Hit subscribe and you never have to miss a thing. Coming up in this hour, we are going to talk about how Britain is... it's quite stark and black and white, this report from the Defence Select Committee. Britain is not ready to defend itself from attack. I mean, you know, there's no pussyfooting around. There's no maybe, maybe not. Following a year-long inquiry, the committee said Labour was moving at a glacial pace in the face of renewed threats from Russia and China, and goodness knows who else as well. Well, MPs have also been warned, and peers also warned by MI5, that they are being targeted by Chinese intelligence agents trying to recruit their staff, friends and contacts with large financial incentives. Security Service named 2 recruitment headhunters who it said were being used by the Chinese Ministry of State Security to target people who are one step removed from high priority targets. And yet, the government is still planning to give the Chinese a mega embassy just close to the city next to Tower Bridge. I mean, it seems absolutely like a good idea, doesn't it? They left hand, right hand, meet each other at some point in this government. Plus, we're going to be talking about the latest on the asylum issues. Children born in the UK to refugee parents will face deportation along with their families under Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary's asylum crackdown. Now, the decision is to ensure there are no incentives for refugees to make sure they have kids in the UK on the basis that they can stay, according to Home Office sources. The usual hand-wringers and bleeding hearters are saying how outrageous this is. Well, are you saying because someone has a kid they shouldn't be deported, or are you saying that the children should be separated from their parents? Seems a bit cruel, doesn't it? Seems to me, given that there is no right to British citizenship simply from being born here, I don't really know what people are getting fussed about. You're either here with your parents legally or you're not. And if you're not, bye. Thanks for coming. See ya. Close the door on the way out. Also, we're going to be talking about the displays of national flags on Britain's streets. According to a chairman of the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, one Emily Sporrell, those national flags, our Union flag, the England flag, have become a tool of division and intimidation. The thing is, you see, if you are intimidated by the Union flag or by the England flag, doesn't that say more about you than it does about the people putting them up? Just throwing that out there, because I can't imagine anyone claiming to be intimidated by, you know, the St Andrews flag. You know, no one seems to have an issue with that. With Scotland brilliantly getting a place in the World Cup. I mean, you know, I'm delighted for them. I'm not intimidated when I see that flag. So why would someone be intimidated by the England flag or the Union flag? Love to hear your thoughts on that. Lots and lots to talk about. I particularly want to hear from you this morning about this very stark report by MPs saying Britain is not ready to defend itself from attack. I mean, it's just that stark. It is that simple. Right now, the Defence Secretary, John Healey, is giving a speech at Downing Street talking about how, you know, we know what you're doing to Vladimir Putin. Yeah, well, we don't know what we're doing there, do we? Because we're not defending ourselves. I want to know your reaction. Give us a call, 03444 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs £1 standard network rate message. But as always, feel free to get in touch on any and all of the topics we're talking about, and I know you will, because you always do. Anyway, joining me today, Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor. Morning to you.
Morning.
Lovely to see you. I mean, 2 stories related, well, 3 really. We've got this speech by the Defence Secretary, we've got a report by the Defence Committee, a review saying Britain's not ready to defend itself, and we've got a warning from MI5 that China is targeting MPs with large financial incentives. You work in the House of Parliament.
Yes.
And so you received this email warning you. I mean, where do you stand on all of this?
does it surprise anybody that China is a threat? And I think we've known this for some time.
Apparently to the government, because that's why that China spy trial collapsed.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Speaker of the House of Commons is still absolutely spitting feathers that those two people have been able to get off, and the government seems to shrug its shoulders. But they have always been a risk. The Chinese Communist Party has always been a risk to the United Kingdom. It's unsurprising.
A murderous, undemocratic, tyrannical regime that enslaves millions of Uyghurs, kills prisoners for their organs, makes blatant threats to Taiwan and neighbouring, independent nation state. I mean, I think there are clues. I think there are clues.
Not really soft and fluffy, are they? You don't want to be friends with them. And
we want to trade with them. We want their money.
This is your problem. And in order to have the trade and the money from them, they want certain things in return. This is how it works. And they wanted access to provide security systems in very sensitive locations in the United Kingdom. I wonder why. That's not just being nice,
want to be involved in our energy, in our 5G network, and previous governments gone, this seems proper. We should definitely do that.
Critical infrastructure that they want to stick their nose in. But the email was hysterical.
But why has MI5 issued that email now? So you say hysterical. Well, I mean, really? An email from the MI5 was hysterical?
It came with an attachment, which was a handy sort of cut out and keep guide as to why these things are bad. And it was all the things that you could be offered. An all expenses paid trip to China. Most people, out of the blue, if they were offered an all expenses paid trip to China, would probably go, why?
Now, Keir would take it.
Probably some clothes.
I mean, you get Lord Ali to sort the suits. Yeah.
But it was quite interesting that they have to lay it out in very simple terms that MPs and staff will understand. Are we really that stupid? And I think the answer to that is obviously yes, we are. I haven't sadly been approached by any Chinese spies. They've not come to me, as far as I am aware, anyway. But I think if they'd used the phrase reaching out in their email, it would have been deleted automatically, because I hate that.
There is that. But we know that it has worked in the past.
Yes,
we know when we get people who just do sting operations from newspapers, from lobbying firms, that an awful lot of MPs and their assistants will literally lap it all up in return for a sort of a night in a posh hotel. So goodness knows what they can offer. Can I just say some breaking news from the Defence Secretary, John Healey? He's opened his speech in Downing Street today on defence, saying a Russian spy ship, the Yantar, is on the edge of UK waters north of Scotland, having entered the UK's wider waters over the last few weeks. This is a vessel designed for gathering intelligence and mapping our undersea cables. Now, we know Russia has been doing a lot of that. We deployed a Royal Navy frigate and RAF planes to monitor and track this vessel's every move, during which the Yantar directed lasers at our pilots. That Russian action is deeply dangerous, and this is the second time this year that this ship, the Yantar, has deployed to UK waters. So my message to Russia and to Putin is this: we see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready. I'm sorry, John Healey, that is literally the most weak, limpest wristed nonsense I've ever heard. Are they allowed in UK waters without our permission? If not, I mean, are they, aren't they? Can someone find out? I don't know my rules on this, but if they... I'm sorry, them shining lasers into the pilots, the RAF pilots, that is an act, that is a hostile act.
Yes.
I would say an act of war. Why are we allowing them in our waters to monitor our cables? Why are we also, by the way, these aren't just, telecommunications cables. A lot of these cables, and internet cables and things. These are also often, pipelines and things, getting gas and oil from Norway and things like that. Guys, we are literally sleepwalking into not being able to defend either ourselves or our key allies in NATO. We've been here before. It was roughly, give or take, 100 years ago. We were here before. We know the playbook. OK, it was Hitler last time, Putin this time. He has his sights set on Eastern Europe, and it ain't going to end there. I do not understand this. Now, someone's just clarified for me, no Russian ships are not allowed in UK waters without the UK's permission. There's specific regulations to prevent them from entering UK ports as well. So if they're not allowed in the waters, why are we monitoring them and going, oh, I wonder what you're doing? A message to the Russian embassy that day, get your ships out of our waters by close of play today, or we're going to bomb them out. That is the only language that Putin understands. Now, people will go, oh, you're a warmonger. No, Putin's a warmonger. And we have seen when a Russian plane went into Turkish territory from Syria and the Turks just went, shot it down. Don't do that again, they said. And do you know what? The Russians didn't.
Exactly.
Russians have been going into some of the Baltic states, and everyone goes, oh, what should we do? Some drones. Oh, what should we do? No, you know what to do. You know how to deal with this man. He is testing us, and we are failing that test every minute, every hour, every day, every month, and every year.
Yeah, absolutely
Madness.
right.
Madness. And everyone thinks that John Healey's a future leader. Madness.
Turkey took precisely 12 minutes between issuing their warning and then shooting it down. So they're not messing around. And we've just asked them nicely if they wouldn't mind reversing their ship back a bit and getting out of our waters. If they're pointing laser
We
pens
haven't even told them to get out. We see you, we know what you're doing. Oh, no, if you travel south, then we're ready. Ready for what? What, ready with tea and biscuits?
How far south?
Yeah, I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. Genuinely, guys, we are not safe, and the people in charge. I mean, the Tories were just as bad for years. Everyone thought the Cold War dividend, that was it, the end of history. Pay attention. The people who know, the military people who know, the ones who are most fearful of war, because they've seen it with their own eyes, felt it with their own bodies. They know. There is no one who knows anything about geopolitics and war and strategic thinking who doesn't think we are facing a threat and doesn't think that we are able to fight it. We are not able to defend our allies, and crucially, we are not able to defend ourselves. Listen to this. This report says we're failing to meet our NATO Article 3 defence obligations to maintain and develop individual and collective capacity to resist armed attack. We have next to nothing when it comes to, that's their words, next to nothing when it comes to integrated air and missile defence. We lack a plan for defending the homeland and our overseas territories, and MPs mustn't bury their head in the sand. I mean, I don't know how much clearer they can be in black and white.
And it also, I think probably the other thing that they haven't necessarily looked at in detail are the amount of people leaving the armed forces. So it's all very well, we don't have the equipment.
And
but
you come from a military family.
I do, and up until June 31st of this year, 14,000 people had left the armed forces. 14,000. So there are more leaving than there are joining. There was a big deficit in that. And you've got to look at why. What are we doing to encourage people to stay? What are we doing to make that life...
The pay is pitiful.
The pay is pitiful. They have had a pay increase, but it's still not enough. If you're asking people to put their lives on the line for your country, then you should reward them for that.
Yeah, I just don't think most people would think that would be an issue. It's amazing how often also you see, charities collecting, for homeless veterans, for help for heroes. There shouldn't be a single charity that needs to do that.
No,
that should just be, I'm sure our taxes should pay for that. Well, look, that ties in with, does it not? Because again, if you don't spend on this, what are you spending the money on? Like, should our taxes rise? Guys, when there's a war, our taxes will rise to pay for all this, and it's going to cost a heck of a lot more in the event of war. We're going to end up paying for it anyway. This is like you've got a drip in the roof and you think, just ignore it. You're going to end up replacing your whole roof. It's going to cost you tens of thousands of pounds as opposed to maybe 800 quid to do with the leak. And I'm just saying we are really, really failing on this front. But we are spending money on other things. The extra £6 billion is going to be spent on benefits in the budget. The government couldn't get through a measly £5 billion in welfare cuts. Now, they weren't quite the right welfare cuts because it was cutting the amount of money people on disability benefits gets. Whereas actually, I would like people on disability benefits who really need them to get more. I just want fewer people who, by definition, don't need them to get those benefits. And we've talked ad nauseum on this show about a lot of the people who are on this. But we're going to be spending an extra £6 billion in their benefits because the amount paid in working age benefits is going to rise by 3.8% from next April. Now, if you're on benefits or on minimum wage or highly paid, either way, inflation goes up. The poorer you are, the more the inflation hits you because you have to spend money on the necessities.
Yes.
And inflation, as we know, it's fallen to 3.6%, but last month was 3.8%, and that's the measure that's used for benefits, for pensions, for everything else. I mean, people on benefits are going to need to see a rise to keep pace with able to spend, on buying food, paying for energy. But it's the fact that we've got an extra 1 million people on out-of-work benefits in the last year. I mean, it's just who don't have no requirement to actually even look for a job. That's where your problem is.
Well, of course it is. And everybody else who is sitting there thinking, well, I'm not going to get an increase in my wage next April, that's not coming, but my costs are enormous, and I get up at 6 in the morning and I go and do a day's work, and they're going to be looking at this and saying, well, how is this fair for me? Labour set themselves out to be the party of the working person, and more, they're looking like they're the party of the shirkers. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. I don't have a problem with somebody who desperately needs help, if they have illness, disability, whatever, getting that help. Absolutely no problem with that.
We want to be able to target that help to the people who really need it. And we've said that so many times on this show. People go, oh, I've got a disability. No, we're not talking about you. We want to help you.
Yeah,
we should be proud to pay taxes to help you, you know?
We all know who we're talking about. Everybody will know somebody.
This is the thing. When I get people from the left who go, no, people aren't all swinging the lead. And again, you talk to anyone. We had somebody called in from a benefits, works in a benefits counter. One of my best friends has done that for the last 20, 30 years. Yeah. And says, I mean, you literally have people coming in saying, I work, or they can't work more than part-time, they can't get a job full-time. Hello, I've been working 2 days a week to make sure I get my housing benefit and all my other benefits. I'll do my 2 days a week. My boss wants me to work 5 days a week. Can you tell me how much better off or worse off I'll be? And she has to do the numbers, and she goes, well, actually, you'll be about a tenner better off, because but you'll lose this, that and that. You're not eligible if you're working full-time. And then completely normal. This has happened, dozens and dozens of times. They'll go, well, I won't bother then. I'll say I can't do it. Because why would I work 3 days a week more if I'm a tenner better off? It's what worth my time. And you just think, but they're able to make that decision, whereas actually they should be reported immediately, taken off all their benefits, so go and get a full-time job. But I thought that's what should happen. Yeah, and I thought that was what was supposed to happen if you turn down the opportunity to go to work, because it's not just about the money. Yes, all right, money. We all need to have that. It isn't just about that, it's all the other benefits. Certainly, if I come revolution when I'm in charge, you under 25s, seriously, under 25, there are no benefits for you. You are going to be required at 8 a.m. to be in your jumpsuit, and you're going to be cleaning up litter, cleaning graffiti. 8 o'clock? I'm going to be generous. They're all on their Xboxes. They've got no money, but they're all on their Xboxes till 3 a.m. No, but 8 a.m. you're going to be there. And if you're late, even once, you don't get paid. Because that's how life works in real life, That's how life works. I'm not late for my show. People go, well, it's all right for you, you're paid well. No, do you think there were many years when I was late and then it just happened? I mean, everyone listening now, everyone watching now who's done well in life, who's worked, or just kept a good, solid job and, being a reliable employee, it's because you just do it it's the everyday bit. Yes. It's like parenting. It's being there every day. It is. It's part of the deal. Yeah. OK, all right, I don't work Fridays. I took the pay cut. Guys, I took the 20% pay cut. That was the deal. But no, this is the thing. It is extreme. But I genuinely, I would not have any young person allowed to be out of work. You are going to turn up every single day, and you are going to be doing something useful, and then we're going to put you making applications, and you're going to do that. I think they'll all find jobs quite quickly. Well, of course they will. I mean, it isn't difficult. But they won't be able to find jobs easily if Labour continue taxing employers. No. Well, here's the other thing. Then we've got a problem. Here's the other thing. Will there be any jobs at all? I mean, no, the taxing on employers, and God knows what we're going to see in the budget. It's a week away now. These extraordinary figures for the Office for National Statistics, who had predicted that in the calendar year of 2024, 77,000 Brits had left the UK. Yeah. 77, which is too many, by the way. Yeah. I mean, there'll be people retiring, but like I say, we were talking yesterday, those weird sort of duck-faced influencers heading off to Dubai. Have a great life. And with their free handbags. But also an awful lot of entrepreneurs, young people want to make, get ahead. People who can't afford to buy a home here, but can buy a home somewhere in Europe. Or, but it wasn't 77,000. It was more than 3 times that. It was 257,000. More than 250,000 of people in this country with enough get up and go to get up and go have left. No, that is terrifying. We're going to lose our brightest and our best. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm terrified that my daughter and your son are going to be among the people who go, do you know what? I'm not wanted here. I'm not valued here. I'm shipping out. And I don't blame them. And my son has already said that to me. Where can I work? And I said, well, clearly... I'll be rewarded for it. Yeah, you can work wherever you like. And he's now looking at places like Dubai. He's also looking at Australia, New Zealand. Doesn't matter how far away it is. He's looking at the quality of life that he can have, how much he's going to work, how much he's going to have in his pocket, and is it worth staying put? Yeah. I mean, clearly,
it is because I'm here, but I wouldn't hold him back. But it is frightening that we are going to lose so many good people.
Absolutely.
Because we can't look after them.
Here's some people might also lose if we do see the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood actually deliver, get to an Act of Parliament and actually change some of the asylum rules. We talked about those an awful lot this week. Getting rid of failed asylum seekers. Lots of outcry from the usual hand-wringers about how children will also, families will also be included. Now, the focus has been on, foreign criminals, single men, which is who largely are coming across on the boats, but we also know there are some families, particularly families who come here. Again, those people who put their children on that boat from a safe country in France should be, frankly, should be imprisoned for... if you and I did that on a nice day out in the Channel, we'd be prosecuted, and quite rightly. But children born in the UK, so people got this mad idea that they're like in America, you're now British. No, you don't have automatic, you're not British citizen because you're born here, okay? You have to have British citizenship because you have British citizenship. It's different. So if your parents are from abroad and are foreign citizenship and they have you here, that makes them the nationality of the people they came with. So they're saying that there's outcry that children born in the UK to refugees will be deported. Now, this is to stop there being an incentive to basically, knock someone up. We know some refugees, some refugees, illegal migrants have used this as a way to not be deported, the right to a family life under Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights. But what are they saying? Do they want the kids to be left here on their own without the parents? Or are they saying that if someone's got a kid, we can't deport them? I think
that's what they're saying. They don't want them to go. Right, there are so many problems with this because so many people believe that we have birthright citizenship in this country, which we don't. We don't have that. And you're right. If a child is born here to foreign parents, then the citizenship is conferred by the mother. So it's whatever citizenship the mother is what the child is. It shouldn't stop us deporting those who have no right to remain just because they have children. I think there becomes a problem when you're looking at detaining individuals because nobody really wants to detain children. We don't want to
but if we speeded everything up so they weren't detained for a year and it was just 3 days and we sort the flight out,
then that's not a problem. And I think people look at what President Trump did in America, where there were children being detained in prison-style camps. We don't want to see
by the way,
that.
Obama also did this.
Yeah, he
but
did.
No one complained about it.
No, I still pointed that out because it is appalling. I wouldn't like to see that for the children. It isn't their fault. But it doesn't mean that they get the right to stay here. And I think that we need to be very firm on this.
Let's talk about Trump, since you mentioned him. The US Senate, the Congress has approved releasing Epstein. The Senate is going to approve today. And we've got, of course, Donald Trump promising to sign this bill to release the Epstein files in full, except he could just sign an executive order and they could have been released already. This has become quite a big issue for him, hasn't it?
And I think he's made it a big issue by sort of denying all knowledge of things and not making a decision on it. And of course, people will sense a weakness and they'll go after it.
And he promised in opposition he would release the files.
He did.
And he says he's got nothing to fear. I think he probably doesn't, weirdly.
I don't think so. I think his attitude is quite interesting. He's just like, yeah, fine, whatever. And if he was a man with something to hide, I think he'd be a little bit more...
Except why wouldn't you publish them? Well, my guess is the security authorities don't want them. There's obviously a lot of stuff that is in there that people don't want.
And who else is named in it? I mean, it's quite interesting. But I should imagine whatever comes out, I think there's going to be some heavy redactions. I don't think we're going to see...
Yeah, that is true. And what did you make of this press conference with the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who's a murderer, by the way? Just to clarify, he's a murderer. Defending him is a question from a journalist who he also had called, he said, piggy. An Air Force One said an ABC journalist said quiet piggy to her. I mean, Chris, extraordinary. You're a terrible journalist. Attacking her for embarrassing his guest in the White House by asking the Crown Prince about the 2018 murder of Jamal Khashoggi, a Washington Post journalist, and a journalist working for an American newspaper. And by all accounts, certainly the CIA, very clear, he ordered it and certainly knew about it, but definitely ordered it. There have been some reports that he actually listened to him being tortured in the Saudi embassy in Istanbul while he was being tortured. And then he was murdered and then his body dismembered. I mean, sorry, absolutely guilty of sin. I'm sorry. But Donald Trump basically defending it on the basis, well, he was a controversial guy. Oh, sorry. I mean, have I been controversial enough to deserve to be murdered and dismembered? I don't know.
I think we all need to be a little bit concerned. I didn't quite believe what I was watching.
Yeah.
With Trump laying out the red carpet for somebody whose regime is so dictatorial and so
but they're rich.
Out of control. Yes, they are, but it shouldn't take your morals away from you, should it?
Well, it does in Britain as well. We roll out the red carpet for the Saudis as well. We absolutely do. There's lots more I want to talk about. We've got top guests coming on in the next hour. We've got Michael Gove, the former cabinet minister. He's now editor of The Spectator. Lord Gove, as he is now. We're also going to be talking a little bit later in the show to the wonderful Sharon Davies about, well, she's starting up a women's sports union to tackle all those sports bodies that are still, despite the Supreme Court, allowing men, calling themselves women, but men in women's sport. Also going to talk to the former Security Minister Tom Tugendhat about the state of play with Russia and indeed with China. It's all coming up. Your call's up next, though, particularly on the defence threat. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the home of common sense. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Just to remind you that breaking news today from the Defence Secretary John Healey, who has said that UK forces are deployed to track a Russian spy ship on the edge of UK waters north of Scotland and is basically gathering intelligence, mapping our underseas cables, and apparently, we know where they are, and if it travels south, we are ready. Yeah, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Send an angry text? John Healey, or are we actually going to just say, like, you know, literally 1 metre closer and we will blow your ship up? I mean, come on, we've got to get real with the threat from Russia, don't we? This after we've got a report from the Defence Select Committee today saying that Britain simply, quite categorically, is not ready to defend itself or anyone else from attack. End of, full stop. Get to your calls, 0344 499 1000. Dale is on the line in Somerset. Hello, Dale, what do you want to say?
I'll just pull over the park up a minute.
All right, we'll just wait. I mean, you knew I was coming to you. Come on.
my defence and unemployment.
Yeah.
If you're unemployed for a year, you're young enough, obviously, and
Yeah.
to a point fit enough to constrict them, make them join the forces.
Yeah. Except the army say they don't want them, but they might not have a choice.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They either join up or they lose all their benefits.
Yeah. I think it would focus minds quite a lot, wouldn't it?
I think so. I think if they didn't want to join up, then they'd go out and get a job, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and there are jobs. I'm sorry, there are, and there have been, and you know, they just want a job. They just want one of those jobs that pays 50k where you eat chocolates all day. Sorry, not available. You haven't got any qualifications. Tough.
No. I think it worked on both fields really.
Yeah.
Unemployment and military.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to agree with you. I really do. Dale, thank you very much indeed with that. Get back on with your drive. I should have asked whether it was snowing. I think we've just gone to sleet and rain now in London. I mean, that was it, folks. That was winter. That was your winter fun. Have a lovely day. Let's go to a couple of your texts and tweets. William says, my thought is that maybe we shouldn't be telling our potential enemies that we're not ready for attack. I did think that when I read that. Claire Pearce was chuckling away there. Yeah, we're not ready for attack. No, we're fine. We're very strong. We're very strong. We're going to take you on, Russia. Sam says, we spend £50 billion a year on defence. Where does it go? Good question. I don't think 50 billion is enough, sadly. Ed says, are we really surprised we can't even defend our border? Ellie says, we've been well and truly failed by the Labour government. I hate to tell you, it's the last 14 years of the Tories too, and before that as well. Susan says they can't even defend our borders from foreigners on small boats. If any military force comes along, they'll probably just hold the doors open. Oh, well, escort them in with the Royal Navy, mate. Tom says, how can anyone be shocked by this? Norman says, absolutely nobody wants to invade the UK apart from migrants on boats. And Amy says, shocker. Yeah, I have to say, people are taking this in a very sort of, what did we expect? We're going to put some of these questions to Michael Gove now, Lord Gove, Conservative Peer. He's up next on the show, and also talk to him about all the other big stories in the news as well. And we'll get to more of your calls in the next half hour, I promise. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:36 is the time. Let's go to my next guest, Lord Gove, a Conservative peer. You'll know him as Michael Gove, former Cabinet Minister, of course, now editor of The Spectator magazine. Very good morning to you, Lord Gove.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. I must ask you about the breaking news this morning about this major new report from the Defence Select Committee. They are not mincing their words, saying Britain is not ready to defend itself. Next to nothing when it comes to integrated air and missile defence, lacks a plan for defending the homeland and overseas territories. And at the same time, got a speech by Defence Secretary John Healey this morning at Downing Street talking about how UK forces have had to be deployed to track a Russian spy ship on the edge of UK waters. waters, which is gathering intelligence and mapping our undersea cables. How worried should we be?
Very. I think that this report makes all too vividly apparent what I think most people within the defence establishment, and certainly most people who've been observing what's been happening in our military, have known for some time, which is that our capacity to defend ourselves is degraded, and our Army, Navy, Air Force, and the whole set of capabilities that we need in order to keep ourselves safe is nowhere near the state that it needs to be in order to discharge its function and to protect us all.
I mean, no, look, lots of people are blaming Labour. They've only been in power, less than 18 months. And the truth is, this has happened over a long period of time, even before you went into government. And in 2010. We've had that sort of post-Cold War sort of celebration. Oh, we don't have to spend a fortune on our defence defending ourselves against Russia. Well, Russia is once again a threat and has been for quite some time. How much more do we need to spend? As someone's pointing out, we spend some 50 billion a year on defence.
Yes.
Well, where is that money going, and why isn't it going on defending us?
Well, I think those are very, very good questions. Now, obviously, as everyone knows, and we're only a week away from the budget, money is tight, and the government has failed to make the cuts that it needs to failed to make the cuts that it needs to make in areas like welfare. But overall, we need to, I think, get to at least 3% of GDP on defence. But it's not just a matter of spending.
And the rest.
It's also a matter of overhauling how we actually use that money. And it's also critically a matter of morale as well, which is where, for example, legislation that's been introduced by this Labour government only yesterday to effectively allow the courts to pursue veterans in a way that we in government are trying to prevent, actually only means that for those who risk their lives for us, there is now a question mark hanging over whether or not the government has their back.
Yeah, indeed, that's a big concern for an awful lot of people. What about the threat from China? We had that extraordinary message going out in Parliament from the parliamentary authorities on behalf of MI5 warning about Chinese attempts basically to, incentivise MPs and parliamentarian peers and people working in Parliament to basically, give them intelligence. So they might think actually is information that's not very significant, but when they piece it all together, it is. How big is that threat? I mean, who should we be most worried about right now?
Well, we should be worried about Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and Islamist fundamentalists, and also other, it's a lesser threat, but it's still a growing one, other threats to public order from far left extremists as well. There are escalating threats in a variety of areas, and I think you're absolutely right, Julia, that we've been naive towards them. So naive that, as I think you've pointed out, our energy infrastructure is increasingly dependent on China, whether it's solar panels, whether it's wind power, whether it's electric vehicles. And of course, moving away from fossil fuels over time is a good thing. But what we're basically doing is handing control over huge sections of our economy to China. Ed Miliband says, oh, we mustn't be reliant on Russia for oil. Fair point. But we're actually staking so much of our energy infrastructure on the goodwill of the Chinese Communist Party. And the material that we're importing is often material that's been manufactured by slave labour in Xinjiang in China.
And in factories powered by coal. But hold on a minute, when you were in government in many different guises, but you were at the heart of government for many years, you were fully signed up to this net zero madness.
Well, I think it's absolutely right to take climate change seriously, but I think I think that the main point is being, I think, mature about it. And being mature about it is to recognise that it is one of a number of risks that the world faces.
But your government made it the number one policy. I mean, even there was the one thing Philip Hammond ever did that was sensible as a chancellor. They did a report on the likely cost of a net zero, which had been signed in by Theresa May and continued by all the other Tory prime ministers. Was it was going to cost at least £1 trillion? We don't have £1 trillion.
We certainly don't have £1 trillion, but it is right, I think, to acknowledge that man's economic activity, burning fossil fuels, does contribute to global warming. But what is absolutely wrong...
Marginal at best.
What is absolutely
wrong... There's plenty of scientists saying it's marginal at best.
No, but the scientific consensus is that it does contribute.
No, there isn't a scientific... No, that's not true. Again, this is just something that's stated. It's not true. It's not true.
I think that almost every scientist, not all, almost every scientist would say that man's economic activity contributes to the changing the climate.
Again,
but,
not true. But anyway,
well,
carry on. This is a made-up stat. Okay, yep. Jeez.
Well, we'll disagree on that. But even if we disagree on that, it's certainly the case that where I do agree with you is that even if that's true, then the huge sacrifices that we're being asked to make now lower our capacity to generate economic growth, and that inhibits our capacity to be able to help those countries and help ourselves cope with any climate change or indeed any other natural phenomenon, let alone the threats from Russia and China.
Yes, I was going to say, or indeed even to defend ourselves. Well, that leads us very neatly onto the budget, doesn't it? And we're told there's going to be an extra £6 billion more spent on benefits. The government couldn't get through a £5 billion measly cut on welfare. Of course, this is to do with an inflation increase, 3.8% in working age benefits as of next April. At the same time, we've still got the triple lock on pensions. We haven't got any money. You know that. We know. Everyone knows we haven't got any money. Taxes are going up on businesses, the tax thresholds and the like. We've got a record number of Brits leaving the UK extraordinarily last year. More than 250,000 of Brits. Some of them be retirees with money. Many will be young people wanting to get ahead in life and not wanting to face, massive eye-watering taxes. What is the solution? What needs to be cut? What needs to be done to get us back on an even footing?
Well, I never thought I'd say this, but I think Nigel Farage got it right earlier in the week when he talked about the need to ensure that the money that we give to people who are living with disabilities goes to those with genuine disabilities. Your viewers may not know, but I think you've probably reported the fact that at the moment, 24% of people in the country, 1 in 4, is considered disabled.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. It means that those who are living with genuine disabilities, those who are visually impaired, those who've got hearing loss, those who've got severe learning difficulties, who actually need more support, are being lumped in with people who simply find it a bit difficult to get up in the morning. And
don't we all?
Yes. And so you cannot have a situation where we subsidise idleness and where we say to people, all the incentives are to say, do you know what? I'm useless. And it creates a circumstance of learned helplessness. So in that sense, you need fundamental reform of the welfare system. And also, with the 2-child benefit cap, I recognise that there is a problem in this country with people not having enough children. I've done my bit in the past. But what we can't do is have people who are working hard, who themselves are putting off having children because they can't afford a bigger house or a larger mortgage, subsidising people on welfare to have larger families. And overall, so many of the things that the government are talking about, potential bribes for people with taxpayers' money, are unaffordable given the desperate situation that the country's economy is in.
I've absolutely agree with you on that final point. Something I've been remonstrating with Reform on and indeed Labour for quite some time. Let me ask you also about Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary. I mean, Nigel Farage basically said, come on over. You seem to be in Reform's sort of sights when it comes to her policies on asylum and dealing with illegal migrants and getting them out of the country. A lot of people saying they support what she wants to do, but if it actually happens. She's getting it above hot water with the hand-wringing Liberals, though. And you've been a hand-wringing Liberal in your time, about children born to asylum seekers in this country, but children born in the UK, not British citizens, therefore. They only get British citizenship from their mother's citizenship, and being deported along with their parents. Should families be deported if they've no right to be here?
Yes.
No ifs, no buts.
Yeah, I think that Shabana Mahmood is the Julia Hartley-Brewer of the Labour Party. She's the woman that everyone has to listen to, and people are scared to take on an argument because they know that she's right.
Yeah. Shame you didn't listen to me on COVID, Michael.
Well, I think that...
You and I've rowed about this before.
The key thing with Shabana Mahmood is that I'm sure there are some things that I disagree with her on. There must be. That's why she's in the Labour Party. But in those areas where I do disagree with her, I suspect that she may be right and I may be wrong, and that's certainly proven to be the case in the past with you, Julia.
Is that an admission that I was right and you were wrong on COVID and lockdowns and
it's
vaccine
a point that
passports?
often I've found that over time, where I've disagreed with you, I've found that you are right. But we can talk about COVID another day.
We shall. Good Lord Gove, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Absolute pleasure to have your company. Conservative peer and editor of The Spectator. Thank you very much. Do come back again. Claire Pearsall, listening to all of that. We covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah.
I think it's because he's not a politician anymore. You get really clear answers.
Yeah.
You get, it's like earlier this morning, JK talking to the Defence Select Committee chair. Could you just give us a yes/no answer?
Yeah.
What do you want to come back on?
I just think it's really interesting. And you're right, how politicians, when they're not in office any longer, are suddenly much more open to talking.
Yeah.
And I disagree with Michael Gove on climate change. I think that's the real sticking point. So much of what he says makes sense. They are, and it's really upsetting.
The dinner party class is still signed up to. By the way, Shabana Mahmood, just a message from me, having been called by Michael Gove, the Julia Hartley-Brewer of the Labour Party. Sorry, love. Your career's over. Just telling you that now. 10:47 is the time. Just some breaking news for you. The man who had the suspect involved in that horrific stabbing spree on the high-speed train in Cambridgeshire earlier this month, Anthony Williams, he has been charged with 7 further offences following that stabbing spree, including the attempted murder of a 14-year-old boy in Peterborough and the attempted murder of a 22-year-old man in the city the day before. That's according to British Transport Police. Of course, that case is still ongoing. Be careful what you write on social media. We need people to have fair trials in this country. We care about that still. Up next, we're going to talk to Connor Tomlinson about, well, what on earth is going on when it comes to the police regarding our flags as tools of division. That's up next. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:51 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Claire Pearsall still here and delighted to be we're joined now by and to welcome Connor Tomlinson, who's a writer with Courage Media, to talk about our flags. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Good
If I may, can I commend you on your previous interview with your last guest? It's always good to see politicians be given tough questions, especially because I actually did a debate with Mr. Gove on immigration for The Spectator.
You did?
And despite popular demand, he's banned the footage from being released. So good to see him not to be able to get away from that.
Well, next time he's on, we will ask him about that. Do you know, I did know about that, and that was remiss of me to realise that you were next on, and I could have asked about that. I do apologise for that. Let me ask you though about our flag, because obviously there's a lot of flag waving over the last since last night. Some fantastic victories for Wales and for Scotland, and flags waving. As we see when England does well in the sport, we get the flags waving. It's wonderful. And yet, quite bizarrely, a police chief has said that St George's flags, the England flag, are tools, and indeed, of course, the Union flag as well, are tools of division being used to spread fear on the streets by the people who are putting them up, and somehow that is intimidating people. I would argue that someone who's intimidated by seeing our national flag, it says more about them than it does about us.
Well, it says a lot that our national flag has become a symbol of protest inside our own country. It's almost like something Solzhenitsyn would have put in the Gulag Archipelago. The person you're referring to, of course, is Emily Spurrell, the chairwoman of the Association of the Police and Crime Commissioners, who's probably a bit sore this week that Shabana Mahmood plans to put her out of a job. But she said that flags are an expression of our identity and proudly fly outside our police buildings, but when they're used to provoke fear or assert dominance, they become tools of division. Okay, this is just like rote-learned NPC rhetoric.
So is it where a flag flies, or who puts a flag up?
Apparently so, because when she says our identity, but that causes division, yes, all identities cause division, because identities are distinct. They're different from one another.
That's kind of the whole point of
identity. Well, yeah, the identity of water is different from the identity of ice, because one is liquid, one is solid. The identity of the English is different from the identity of Pakistan or India. Do you know how I know that? Because Birmingham Council lit up its buildings for both Pakistani and Indian Independence Day. What they're independent from when they're celebrating it in our country beats me. But we have a distinct identity. It is our flag. Yes, it is exclusive. Yes, it is particular to our land. And if we aren't allowed to fly our flag in our land, then if that's not dominant, the question is, what is? And it seems to be this self-hating multicultural ideology that says we must lower our St George's crosses and our Union Jacks to accommodate identities that have nothing but long-standing historical, ethnic and religious contempt for us. And I think, actually, our identity, our history, our heritage, our culture that says the British, whether through 1066 to the Empire, were the protagonists of history, is a much better narrative to tell ourselves than one that says we were the villains.
I couldn't agree with you more on all of that, and it is just extraordinary. We are the only country in the world that has anyone who's ashamed of their flag, especially not people in power, like police chiefs or government ministers or council leaders. It is absolutely true. I grew up in America for a couple of years where, we not only did we sing the national anthem with our hand on our heart every morning in primary school, completely normal in the Midwest in America, completely normal thing to do. Virtually everyone had a flag at the end of their garden. Again, being proud to be an American. And by the way, and that is the case whether you're white American, black American, Latino American, whether you're Arab American, that is completely the norm. In this country, it's seen somehow as a symbol of, some sort of, basically, let's be honest, white racists, white supremacists or something. And in some way, it's an anti-black, anti-Asian, anti-alternative cultures flag, as opposed to something that is positive, that represents something as positive. But here's the thing, if you come to this country as a tourist or a visitor, why would you be intimidated or bothered by the flag? I'm not intimidated when I go to Australia and see their flag, or if I go to Egypt, I'm not intimidated by the Egyptian flag. But also, if you live here, if you've come to make your home here, or you're born here, whether you're of any previous heritage, why have you come here if you're bothered by our flag?
Our ruling elite, and bear in mind, Spurrell, the woman in question, is a typical liberal, white, middle HR woman who practices hatred of her own ethnicity, her own culture, her own heritage.
Hand-wringing, the usual. I know everything about her already just from that one statement. I know what she eats for breakfast. I know where she goes on a holiday. I know where she buys her... I can tell you everything about her, and I bet you I'll be 99% right.
Yeah, and these people live with a cognitive dissonance that I'm going to call Schrodinger's diversity, because they act as if you don't look at people, if you don't notice differences in cultures or behaviours or values, then they don't exist. We're all just blank slates. We're all fundamentally fungible, equal economic units, and it's just the happenstance of geography or the injustice of economics that make us different. So if we all shut our eyes and hold our hands and sing John Lennon's Imagine, we'll all be as British as you and me. But at the same time, they then demand that we self-flagellate, suppress our identities, hit ourselves with the stick of inexpungible historical and racial guilt, while elevating other cultures which practice atrocities that, by her own liberal standards, should be abhorrent. So I'm just sick to death of being forced to live alongside this cognitive dissonance when I shouldn't have to practice it. And sooner this woman's put out of a job and stops lecturing us on why we can't be proud of our heritage, the better.
And we don't have to pay her wages anymore. But again, this is the thing. It's this all comes back to, and it's something that Kemi Badenoch's actually been very strong on over the years, and Nigel Farage, of course, which is the simple idea that, not all cultures are equal. I don't understand why people say, are you saying we have a superior culture in, the Western liberal world? Yeah. I mean, yeah. What? Democracy, women being equal with men, gay people being equal with straight people. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Being allowed to marry who you want regardless of their religion or their sexuality. Yeah, I consider that to be superior to someone being stoned because they were raped but they were married and therefore it counts as infidelity. Or a gay person being thrown off the top of a tower. Yeah, I consider that to be superior. And I'm not embarrassed to say that.
I would agree with all of those outcomes, Julie. I would say that they come from English tradition, Christendom, more than Western liberal democracy. But I must say, I do disagree with the idea that Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch have been strong on this, because they too have cognitive dissonance. They value our culture, but then they don't seek to preserve it by either preserving the demographic integrity of the majority population of our country to whom that is most intuitive, and then they treat the values as if they're completely abstract, and that assimilation can just sort of work if people live in proximity to host population.
There's no proof of that whatsoever.
No, we're not running a hypothetical experiment at this point. Like, what's the solution to assimilation in Bradford, Luton, Leicester, etc.? We're going to post copies of John Stuart Mill's On Liberty through every letterbox? I don't think so. So it's not just the values. The values are intuitive to the people, and so you have to put the people's interests first. They have to remain a majority in their own country in order for those values to persist. And any politician who isn't trying to secure that is ultimately undermining the foundations upon which they stand.
Very, very interesting. Conor Donaldson, thank you very much indeed for joining us right here at Courage Media. A quick response from Claire Pearson, but I'm sure we'll come back to this later in the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting on flags, isn't it? All right on police stations, not so much on a lamppost in Leeds.
It's really bizarre. I see our flag, it makes me feel good.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, again, I think, look, some of the people might be putting up the flags. I may not agree with all of their views, but I mean, again, I really think we need to re-establish that our flag will fly in this country and we'll be proud of it. And if you don't like it, you know where the door is. Heathrow Airport's over there, mate. 10:59 is the time. Up next, we're going to get to the latest headlines and all the latest news as well. This is Talk, the home of common sense.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. It's 2 minutes past 11 o'clock. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense, and I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Whether you're listening on DAB+ radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube, or your connected device, thank you very much indeed for joining us. We have an awful lot to talk about today. If you do miss anything from the show, I'm with you live until 1 o'clock. Don't forget to go to my YouTube page, the Julia Hartley-Brewer Show. You can hit subscribe. You never have to miss a thing. Coming up, of course, in next hour, we're going to have PMQs. That might be a lively one. There's quite a lot to talk about, including, I would imagine, Defence Secretary John Healey opening a speech in Downing Street this morning by saying a Russian spy ship is on the edge of UK waters north of Scotland, having entered UK's wider waters over the last few weeks, and it's designed for gathering intelligence and mapping our undersea cables. He's ended by saying, my message to Russia and to Putin is this: we see you, we know what you're doing, and if the ship travels south this week, we are ready. Ready to do what, love? Ready to do what? Given that we've got a new report, a major new report by the Common Select Committee on Defence saying Britain, it's categoric, Britain is not ready to defend itself from attack. Full stop. Whether it's Russia, whether it's China, Labour, they say, is moving at a glacial pace in the face of these renewed threats. This comes after we've had that warning to MPs and peers and other people working in Parliament from the MI5 about Chinese intelligence agents trying to recruit their staff. This comes also as we're not spending enough on defence and spending it on the right things, certainly, as Rachel Reeves is going to be spending more on benefits by £6 billion. The budget, of course, is a week today. But basically, with all these calls to basically cut welfare, that absolutely failed attempt to get that vote through the House of Parliament earlier this year for £5 billion in welfare cuts. Well, because of inflation, the inflation rate of 3.8% in September, those working age benefits are going to go up by exactly that amount next April. An extra £6 billion of your and my money. Is it any wonder that more than 250,000 Brits left the country last year, some never to return? Are they the ones who'd end up on benefits with the get up and go to leave the country? I doubt they are. They're probably the ones who are going to be paying the taxes to pay for the benefits. Oh, maybe that's why they're leaving. We'll talk about all of that as well. Plenty more besides to talk about. I want to hear your thoughts on everything we're talking about, whatever you want to get in touch with, but I'm particularly interested in the issue of defence, this Russian spy ship, and Britain not being ready to defend itself from attack. What is your reaction to that? Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate and text cost one standard network rate message. Joining me for the chat this morning, delighted to say, is Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor. Thank you once again for joining us. You, of course, one of the people working in Parliament who got that message from the Chinese. Have you from the Chinese? Yeah. Probably was from the Chinese. They probably wrote it from the parliamentary authorities on behalf of MI5 about the Chinese. I wonder if you're going to get one about the Russians.
Oh, I hope so. Because you can see that Russia have always used cyber as a way of getting through to people in the UK. We only have to look at social media to see the amount of bots on there. So it wouldn't surprise me that they're going to target Parliament. I'm just sad I've not seen any of it. I mean, I'm clearly not very important.
You haven't been offered a freebie trip to China.
Well, yes. I mean, I would obviously turn it down.
I've been told I can't go to China. I've been advised by a number of the MPs, regulars on the show, who've been sanctioned by the Chinese. Basically, you're going to be arrested if you come anywhere near a country we can get you. That actually I've been so critical of them. I would be, and you think I'm a no mark. No, but apparently that would not be safe. That's a bit of a worry, isn't it?
It is, and I've been told similarly that it would not be a good idea. And also with the husband being a journalist who has also been critical, I think would be right up there on the hit list.
I want you to know I would campaign for your release.
Would you?
I would do my best. I would do my best. Thanks. What do you make? I mean, this report about Russia and China and the Iranians, and we spoke to Lord Gove, Michael Gove. He was at the heart of the last Conservative government for a decade plus. He knows where the bodies are buried. It was very interesting when I said to him, how worried should we be about this threat to this country? And he said, very worried. That was a little bit worrying.
I must admit, I did sort of look up at that point and think,
you and I were,
wow, okay.
Gulp.
Never heard it put in such
someone who worked
terms.
In the cabinet for years, and he's not going, no, it's all fine.
Exactly. He would have been party to information that you and I are never going to see.
Which he's never allowed to tell us.
He's never allowed to tell us, but just that one word means everything.
Can I just say, there is a creek We are up it. We do not have a paddle. I'm just there was a creek, we're up it, we don't have paddle. It is that simple. I mean, this Defence Select Committee report is, it's stark. It is stark. They've reported, and this again, it's cross-party. Britain is not ready to defend itself from attack. We're moving at a glacial pace in face of renewed threats from Russia and China. We're failing to meet our NATO Article 3 defence obligations, and that is to maintain and develop individual and collective capacity to resist armed attack. We can't help our allies. We can't help ourselves. We have, their words, next to nothing when it comes to integrated air and missile defences. I mean, has anyone been watching what's been going on in Ukraine for the last 3 years? And we lack a plan for defending the homeland and overseas territory. The Labour's Tandesi, the committee chair who was on JK's show earlier on, said MPs could not bury their heads in the sand anymore, and the government must be willing to grasp the nettle and prioritise homeland defence and resilience. I mean, they visited NATO sites across Europe. They've taken evidence from defence experts and military chiefs. We are absolutely, we're absolutely buggered, guys. But this is the reality. Yeah. We know we've got this threat from Russia. He's not pretending. When we've got Russian spy ship on the edge of UK waters, it's entered our wider waters. Again, they're not allowed in our actual, the 4 mile of our water, but a vessel designed to gather intelligence and mapping our undersea cables. A Royal Navy frigate and RAF planes have been deployed to monitor the Russian vessel, says the Defence Secretary John Healey. And I love this at the end. Russian action is deeply dangerous. This is the second time this year that this ship, the Yantar, has deployed in UK waters. So my message to Russia and to Putin is this. And he said very sternly in front, and he had 2 Union flags behind him, so it must have meant something. We see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're not ready. We're not going to do anything about it. We're going to write a sternly worded message to the Russian ambassador, and then wag our little finger. We're not going to do anything about it. Is this not the issue?
Yes, it is. Do you think Putin's going to sit in there going, John Healey's a bit cross, guys, we ought to back off?
Putin's going, sorry,
call
it off.
Yeah.
No one thinks that Putin is going to invade Britain at any point in the next few years. No. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Putin carrying on in Ukraine, wearing the Ukrainians down. Baltic states next, bearing in mind they're basically sandwiched between a bit of Russia and the mainland Russia.
And they've done this already, and this is what their tactics are.
Then Poland.
They sort of push it to the edge to see how far they can go. They've flown across parts of Finland and Estonia and into airspace around Poland.
The Finns have got a greater ability to defend. They've also got a standing. They've got a big standing army, and they're a tiny country. Yeah. They've also got a quarter of a million people who basically trained military reservists
as well.
We don't even have an army of that many people.
We can get them to go quickly either.
You're from a military family.
Yeah.
How worried are people? Because you talked about morale. Or troops, and something Michael Gove mentioned as well. How big an issue is that?
I think it's enormous because people don't feel that they're being looked after once they're in the armed forces with things like accommodation, really basic things.
And we're not talking about being put up in a 5-star hotel, are we? We're talking about really basic.
Do you know what? They want a house which is not mouldy, which has, is fit for purpose.
For them and their families.
For them and their family. And if you're asking somebody to deploy away from the area which they were born and grew up in, you need to put a roof over their heads.
Well, and we know that a lot of accommodation has to be taken away from the military, and then it has to be upgraded to put asylum seekers in, which tells you everything.
It does, doesn't it? And
where are the human rights lawyers? That's when you need them.
Yeah, and the veterans, we don't look after them afterwards either. So we're not looking after them when they're in or when they're out.
That's immoral. So many of the people if you see an older man on the streets, odds are, absolutely extraordinary. And yet we do have a load of money when it comes to spend money on benefits. Now, that extra £6 billion that's going to go on benefits because inflation was at 3.8% last month, now fallen to 3.6%. Yay! Seriously, it's supposed to be at 2%. That's the target. Yeah. And we know in real life, you look at the price of stuff in the supermarket. You go you want to buy a flight anywhere. You want to go treat the family to a summer holiday. You want to buy clothes. Everything has gone up by. I don't know what they put in their basket of stuff, but maybe avocados haven't gone up by much, and sourdough. I don't know, but the stuff I buy in the supermarket, I do buy avocados to be fair. There is absolutely going up by more than that. But with £6 billion more on benefits because working age benefits are going to go up by inflation. But a lot of people's incomes won't go up. by that.
No, they won't.
The people with wages, I mean.
Yeah, and they're going to be sitting there saying, well, that's all very nice that you're increasing the wages of people claiming benefits, and you're doing it for the elderly with pensions. And this is where you get into that awful conversation about the triple lock pensions.
Where are we on that though? Because we've had people talking about that, and people are getting increasingly unhappy, and particularly younger people. We had Benjamin Butterworth in yesterday. As a young person, you struggle to buy, you're paying off your university debt, you've got all of that, and how many more people are going to be entitled to the triple lock pension? Because the reality is, you and I aren't going to get it. No. We're not going to get anything like that. I'm older than you, and I'm pretty sure the pension age is going to go up before I hit it. Certainly, I think our children's age, they're not going to be able to retire at 65 or 68. I mean, give me a break.
No, and it's going to keep increasing. And when the triple lock was introduced, it was because the rate of increase of the state pension hadn't kept track, and they hadn't been
wasn't there like a 12p increase or something?
Yeah,
I mean, obscene from under Gordon Brown.
There needed to be a little bit of reordering of the pension, and that was right. But you can't just keep these things in forever. But the problem with government is once you introduce something, it's very hard to take
and also,
it away.
Old people vote.
Of course they
Young
do.
people don't vote. That's why old people get these things. And there is always that concern. You got your elderly lady, on her own, your fixed income, and her heating costs have gone up just as much. Her food costs have gone up just as much, and we don't want anyone to be in dire circumstances. I mean, some of the poorest pensioners, one of the biggest issues is they don't claim pensioner credit, which they're entitled to. Too proud, haven't filled out the epic paperwork. Was it 50 pages or something? And that's a big issue. But there is just an issue where the pain is being felt more by working families and by young people that we've gone through than it has by pensioners. And that's the reality. Pensioners actually, weirdly, didn't suffer that much during lockdown. Yes, people were isolated. Well, so were a lot of young people as well. In fact, I think a lot of older people actually had more contact. People bothering to care, visit them, and well, not my mum. She was like, sod this. No point being. She was. I think she was 79. She went, this isn't worth. Yes. She may or may not have occasionally broken COVID rules and cared not a jot, and I'm rather proud of her for that. She's like, I said tell the police, you're a retired GP, you know what you're doing. But you always blame the dog. I'm out with the dog. The dog ran away, whatever. But this is the thing. I mean, it's just these young people who've been really hit hard by everything, and they're going to be paying for it all for the rest of their lives and their taxes. And I think we're going to have to, start worrying more about that said, or we're just going to have to go, full on Blade Runner, and we're just going to have to, sorry, Mum and Dad, time's up, you're done.
Do you think there's going to be a time limit on this?
I don't know. What is it? What's it go? I mean, I'm 57. I'm hoping to get to.
I was going to say.
I'm hoping I've got about another 40 years. So
I sort of start to look at my age and going, well, I'm not sure I want an expiry date set by my small child.
Maybe this is why the government's so keen on assisted suicide. They're just going to kill everyone off.
That's it. Don't have to pay out then, do you?
I know. I'm serious. I mean, genuinely, you start worrying. But what do you make of all the young people in particular who are fleeing the UK? It was expected that, I don't know why we bother having any estimates ever by the Office for National Statistics, whether it's about people coming in, people leaving, people in work. They haven't got a clue. I mean, they must be literally going, put my finger in the air. I think it's 25,000. I mean, they're literally making stuff up. They predicted in the calendar year of December 2024 that 77,000 Brits left the country. Now, we had a huge number of people in, but there was a big cut in the number of people from 2024 after they realised, we let in, 1,200,000 people in. But it turns out actually it was 257,000 people, more than 3 times the number actually left the country. They're doing a bit more sensible analysis, so it's not just sort of exit entry. They're actually looking at people's national insurance, and have you paid tax? Oh no, you may well have left the country. You're not claiming benefits. You may well have left the country. So net migration looks lower than it was because we've still got a load of people coming in, but more people have left.
And this is
which distorts the figures rather a lot. But the key thing is who's leaving? Wealthy pensioners who can afford to leave. I mean, they're maybe not feeling wealthy, but you can afford to go and buy somewhere in Spain. You're probably better off than most. You know, and a lot of I know so many young people. Got your millionaires, your billionaires. Bye, I'm off. And you've got a load of young, upperly mobile, techie people. They can take their work anywhere. They can go and buy themselves a nice place in Portugal or Greece or Dubai or whatever. Pay minimal tax. I mean, we're losing some of our brightest and best. This is a serious worry.
It is. When you see places like Cyprus are offering up visas, as long as you have the money to put into a property, I think it's what, 300,000
Yeah, a friend of mine's building a
euros.
house in Cyprus right now. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you can do that, and they say you can come here, and of course you can work from anywhere these days. You can dial in, you can work remotely.
Why,
a lot of jobs
why
don't
work from
require you to
Hackney
be
or
in an
Sheffield
office.
when you can work from
You can work from Paphos.
Thessaloniki?
Very nice. Why wouldn't you? But young people are also looking at what is in it for them to stay in this country. It's not looking very attractive. They're not going to be able to buy a house. The jobs are not great, with employment rights being sort of held over.
Well, also,
everybody.
there's no benefit to being hard-working, a lot of people
No,
feel,
there
because if the people who are just taking the mick and complaining to HR every 5 minutes that someone looked at them the wrong way or asked them to do their job, and then you're getting passed over, or especially if you're a young white man now.
Yeah,
Bad
pretty
time
much.
to be a young white man.
Yeah, but you're going to be looked over for pretty much every job because you're not going to fit into
Don't tick a box.
handy tick box, are
Yeah.
you? So I don't blame people for leaving, and I you know, like
But I blame
you,
the government, because I don't want our young people leaving. We want
Neither do I.
we want this to be the powerhouse economy that people want to come to.
Yeah.
That we can pick and choose the brightest and the best from other countries. Yes, PhD engineering student who's going to build rockets. Yes, top cancer scientist who's going to come. We want you. You're going to pay a load of money in tax. You're going to do something useful for. We'll take you. We just don't want someone from a backward village in the middle of nowhere who can barely speak English and has no skills.
But what message does
Could
it
be
send?
old-fashioned.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry for that terribly controversial view, people.
I just see it was the most reasonable thing for
It
anybody
used to be what we
say.
did, and again, it's like, well, Australia does. Let's have a points, but points based.
Oh,
Are you
points-based
healthy? Have you got a job? Have you got qualifications that we need? Yep, we'll take you.
Exactly, and this is it. And what message does it send to the rest of the world that our young people and our entrepreneurs want to leave? Why would any company then want to invest in United Kingdom PLC when they go, well, all your people are leaving? There's got to be a reason.
Absolutely. Let's also talk. I'm going to talk about the Princess of Wales. Now, I'm going to make people cross when I say this, because I know lots of people, you're very big royalists, a lot of my audience, and you'll know that I'm not a big royalist. I've got a lot of time for the late Queen. I rather like the current Queen, I have to say. And certainly the late Queen did. I mean, if you're going to have a Queen, wow, that's as good as it gets, folks, in terms of the job she had to do. But I want to talk about the Princess of Wales, Kate, who's someone who can do no wrong in the media and the public's eyes. And yes, I've always said of this woman, she understood the gig. You marry a prince, you have to keep your mouth shut, you produce some beautiful heirs, you look wonderful, and she's done that. And I'm very sorry about her health issues, and I'm very much of the view that everyone really should have just left her alone during an awful lot of that, just to get through what she had to get through with her family. She has, though, given a speech, a rare speech, people are saying, and it's calling on business to value time and tenderness just as much as productivity and success. It's part of her push to make society put the needs of children first. Now, you'd say, putting the needs of children first, and she's talked a lot in her, setting up her, organisations and charities about young children's development. And we know how crucial this is. And it's a very non-controversial thing. It's the sort of thing, American first ladies do. And you're not upsetting anybody because it's non-party political. You're not criticising government policy. And it's very safe territory. And I'm sure she means well. I'm sure she's a very nice lady, and I'm sure she's a very, very fabulous mother as well, judging by the kids she's turned out. But I've got a real issue with someone who left uni, had a very rich family. She pretended to have a job at Jigsaw. She didn't actually do a single day's work at Jigsaw. She then worked for the parents' company. It didn't really do much for them, just a bit of PR. And then became, and a fiancée, and then, a princess. And I know I wouldn't wish being a royal on my worst enemy. But, you don't have to get up at 6 a.m. and go to work every day, the same as a lot of other people. I have a bit of an issue with a royal who lives in splendour and doesn't have to run a business and deal with that, telling businesses that they shouldn't focus so much on productivity and success, i.e. making money, the point of the exercise. They should be focusing more on time and tenderness and putting the needs of children first. I don't think that's the job of businesses. I don't even think that businesses should put their employees' mental health or anything first. I think we've got this all completely the wrong way around. I think you should go to work and do your job that your employers told you to do, or don't do the job and leave. And employers have a job to do, which is to get you to do the best you can to make money, make profit for their shareholders, to pay their staff, maybe give them bonuses and pay rises and produce a product or a service that people want to buy. I don't think that it's up to business. If they want to do work and charity work and be lovely employers, that's fine. I don't think it's the place of a royal princess to tell businesses that are struggling to make ends meet and struggling to keep food on the table for their own families and to keep their employees in jobs, that they need to be doing other basically work about kids that has got nothing to do with them. I genuinely think, with all due respect, Kate, I think you should butt out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I couldn't disagree with a word of that. It isn't the responsibility of a business to make sure that your child or my child is considered or taken care of in any way, shape or form. That's our responsibility as a parent.
Yeah.
You want your employer to be understanding and flexible.
There was a crisis, your child was ill,
Absolutely.
or maternity, paternity leave,
things like that, but most of that is legislated for anyway when it comes to paternity or maternity leave. And most employers are pretty reasonable. If you have to go because your child is sick, then they just go, OK. And people like you and I will also make up the time in jobs, and you will go above and beyond. So I think that it works all ways, and I don't think you can ask businesses to be particularly lenient just because of children. Not every employee will have a child.
Which she says, you know, as business leaders, you will face the daily challenge of finding the balance between profitability and having a positive impact, but the two are not and should not be incompatible. Well, yes, sometimes they are. Sometimes they are, and at that point, businesses are entitled to choose profitability because that's what they're doing. I just, you know, I'm just saying. You think, you know, I just think people who haven't run businesses don't really understand quite a lot of the pressures that a lot of small business people are on. I'm sure she means well. I'm sure she's a lovely woman. I'm not having to go at her personally. I just think badly advised. Yeah. Let's go with badly advised, in my view, putting a tuppence with on that. But there we are. 11:23 is the time. Lots more to talk about. I mean, Shabana Mahmood and children in the UK, you know, born to refugees, born to asylum seekers, failed asylum seekers being deported. Big outcry about that. Like, oh, isn't it terrible? Are people saying the children should stay here and the parents should not? The children are not British. It's not like America, where if you're born literally a centimetre into American territory, you're an American citizen. Yeah. You're as you were saying earlier, you're the citizen, same citizenship as your mum. If your parents haven't got a right to be here, then you go with them. Why is this controversial?
Well, it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. And I don't understand why they're using this as the issue. I think it is a sort of bleeding heart. Yeah.
Well, look at this crying child being put on a plane. Yeah. Maybe don't come here illegally or overstay your visa then, and then your kid wouldn't have to do that. Maybe you're a really rubbish parent for doing that.
But also, if your family is together, you go on a plane, and yeah, all right, the child might be upset, but your job as a parent is to then go make your life a little bit better somewhere else in your home country, or you know, another third country, for example. So I think we're taking it out of all proportion. Yeah, I do draw the line at putting kids behind bars in detention centres.
No, but that's a problem. Again, if the lawyers didn't get involved and they weren't able to appeal for 17 years, that wouldn't be an issue.
If you're talking 24, 48 hours, then do you know what? This isn't a really big thing.
I mean, let's face it, we've probably all stayed in worse hotels. 11:25 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. We get to your calls. Lots of calls coming in on the military and that military threat, not just that ship, that Russian ship just on the edge of British waters, but also the Defence Committee basically saying Britain is not ready to defend itself from attack. Michael Gove, who was at the heart of government for many years under the Tories, says we should be very worried. Are you? Give us a call. Let us know what you think. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's get straight to your calls at 11:29 0344 499 1000. David is in Gloucestershire. Hello, David. What do you want to say?
Hi, Julia. Hi, Claire.
You're very chirpy. Have you seen snow as well?
We've got a bit of snow here, yeah.
Yeah, you see? But is everyone in a good mood? It's just the first few sprinkles. Anyway, what do you want to say about... we've talked about a lot about defence this morning. What do you want to say about that?
Well, the biggest problems with defence in this country is our own government, and not just this one, the last one. I mean, you had Michael Grove on there. You know, oh, we should be afraid, be very afraid. Well, what did he do about it? He was at the heart of it. You know,
no, when he says we have been very naive, but that's the thing. It's government after government. But I would say it even happened under the Blair and Brown governments as well.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this lot. I mean, what have they done? They have left us wide open. Ed Millipede with his no energy. We got Rachel Reeves destroying our farming. You know, the biggest enemy to this country is at number 10 and number 11. They gave the Chagos Islands away. Hermer and Pole telling our veterans that they're going to come after them. Well, who in their right mind will go fighting for the military now?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's like Met Police, you know, being an armed police officer. Why would you do that when every time you actually do the job you've been employed to do, you're going to be facing a murder charge? I mean, as well. I mean, you're really right. Why do you think they don't get it? Because they talk the good talk, and we've just had, you know, the Defence Secretary John Healey talking about this Russian spy ship, and you know, we're watching you. We know what you're doing. We're ready, but ready for what? We're not ready. We've got reports saying we're not ready. We can't defend ourselves.
Well, I mean, the classic one is, I mean, the MPs, we always get told MPs are out there to represent us. And then what did we get the other day with that one MP, the Labour, I think it was a Labour one, was it Eccles or something? And she turned around and said, oh, don't follow the, you know, don't follow the people. You know, you're only saying what she said to follow the people.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, isn't that your job?
Yes, it's weird. I always find, particularly when anything's populist, that's an insult. It's like, so doing what the people want as a democratic leader is somehow the wrong thing.
Nigel Farage gets it in the net for being popular.
I know.
Well, isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Here's the question, though, David. If we want to have stronger defences, we're going to have to spend a hell of a lot more. By the way, 3% ain't going to hack it. I think China's spending 8% of their GDP. That's a lot bigger than ours. How much more tax are you willing to spend, to pay for it?
Well, I will tell you where I can find 48 billion tomorrow morning.
Where?
You stop all foreign nationals claiming a penny in benefits. There's 2 million of them at £25,000. That is 50 billion a year.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a fair argument, I have to say. Hard to disagree with. David, thank you very much indeed for that. I'm just going to squeeze in, I mean, as if you can ever squeeze in, the brilliant, the wonderful Georgina in London. Georgina, now I've got a guest waiting on the line, so I'm going to ask you, if you can, although it's always worth hearing in full, tell us it as briefly as you can, but what do you want to tell us today?
Well, Putin's been dipping his toe within our waters and our infrastructure for some time now, Julia, with no consequences. And now he's just seeing how far he can go without reprisal. You can't trust an ex-KGB agent, and like the Labour government, you would be a fool to take him at his word. The British defence budget has been shelved and neglected since the Thatcher government, and now our borders are so defenceless, we cannot even stop the migrant dinghies, never mind the Russian ship. When an aggressive country bares its teeth, we must be in a position to give them a quick and severe warning bite to deter them from any further aggression. But at the moment, we are not in a position to do that, and without adequate defence spending, we are not going to be able to do it, and we're going to be sitting ducks for anyone who wants to take a pot shot. We need to have the capability to stop any aggressive body from intimidating or attacking our country, but at the moment, the present government have neither the will nor the inclination to address our serious shortfall in defence spending. The government needs to stop sending hundreds of millions in foreign aid and concentrate on defending our nation and population. That's what I do.
Georgina, I'm so sorry, Georgina. The line is getting very, very, very fuzzy. So it's apologies to everyone for that, because we want to hear every word. Georgina is literally the voice of sanity in this country. She should be in charge of it all. But I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to leave it there because of the quality of the line. But Georgina, you're welcome every day. You really are. I have a funny feeling that Tom Tugendhat, who's my next guest in a couple of moments, will agree with every word as well. He's up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense. 11:35 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Let's go straight to my next guest, Conservative MP, former Security Minister Tom Tugendhat, who joins us now. A very good morning to you, Tom.
Morning, Julia. How are you?
Very well indeed. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we were inviting you on the show yesterday to come and talk to us about what's going on with China, but there's also rather big issues with Russia as well today. Let's take these in hand. But first up, extraordinary situation. The Defence Secretary, John Healey, this morning, standing in Downing Street giving a speech saying that a Russian spy ship, the Yantar, is on the edge of UK waters, north of Scotland, having entered the UK's wider waters over the last few weeks. It's a vessel designed for gathering intelligence and mapping our undersea cables. A Royal Navy frigate and RAF planes have monitored its move. But he said, my message to Russia and to Putin is this: we see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready. And yet we've got a Defence Select Committee report saying categorically we are not ready to defend ourselves from attack, whether by Russia or by China. What do you say to all of that?
Well, Julia, I mean, I'm afraid this is something I got into epic fights in the 2 years I was in government, because the reality is we are not coordinated in home waters. We have 5 different departments claiming to have different responsibilities for different bits, meaning nobody's got a responsibility for anything, frankly. We are not structured, and we are massively over-bureaucratised. And I'm afraid we've got a government that is simply not willing to take on the bureaucracy.
Well, hold on a minute. I hate to tell you, you lot were in power for quite a long time.
No, Julia, look, you're completely right. And if you want to make the argument, you're absolutely right. I was in government for 2 years. Various colleagues, as you know, for a lot longer. And in the 2 years I was in, I managed to bring in a new National Security Act that would mean that we can actually do people for treason. And we arrested more Chinese and Russian spies than the previous decade. But you're absolutely right. We didn't fix as much as we should have done. And there's no defence for that. It's just true. But at least we had people like, Michael Gove, who wanted to change things. You may like what they wanted to change, or you may not like what they wanted to change, but they at least wanted to do it. This government has no interest in doing anything. It's waiting to be told by the civil service what it is that they should or shouldn't do. And they've forgotten that they're supposed to be there as the elected representatives of the British people, not as an extension of the civil service.
Because I've always thought one of the defences that the cabinet ministers had, I mean, I don't think it's a good enough defence, is well, look, we weren't aware of the full threats. We're not experts in this field, in any particular field they become the minister for, and you can get shuffled around. You're doing transport one week, defence the next week, and it's the experts in, the Ministry of Defence or the Foreign Office who should be, setting the agenda and explaining. Look, you can't just rely on the Cold War dividend anymore. Things are more difficult. You're going to have to spend more on this and do more on that. But it seems to me that everyone's used excuses of, we haven't got any money, or we didn't really know, we couldn't get round to it. But at the end of the day, we are talking about a couple of decades now of underspending, underinvestment, and under sort of reform. And we've seen wars change. I mean, whether it's Iraq and Afghanistan to what's happened in Ukraine, we're always basically organising to fight the last war rather than the ones that are going to come forward. We know that war has changed massively in the 3 years in Ukraine, to have the use of drones and the like. And we are simply, according to this Defence Select Committee report, we're not able to defend our allies or ourselves. I mean, it's the first job of a nation state, it's the first job of a government, is to defend our borders. And as one of my callers, Georgina, just pointed out, we can't defend ourselves against, the migrant dinghies, let alone, it turns out, a Russian ship in our waters.
Well, I listen to Georgina's points, and I'm not saying I disagree with many of them, frankly. But one of the things that we do have the capability to do is to defend ourselves against the Russian ship. But
what should we do? When he says we are ready, they've been, a Royal Navy frigate and RAF planes monitoring and tracking the vessel. He says that the Russian action is deeply dangerous, and it's the second time it's done. If it's in UK waters, do we have a right to say, get the hell out?
It depends what you mean by UK waters. So there's economic waters which go out, I'm going to get the number wrong, but it's about 100 miles. And then there's territorial waters which go out about 12 miles. And it wouldn't be allowed in the 12-mile zone, but it would certainly be allowed in the 100-mile zone.
And it's just on the edge of that 12 miles by the sounds of it.
That's what it sounds like. I haven't seen any data.
So we can't blow it up. And I'm not saying we should try and start World War III, but what can we do? So when he says we are ready, what does he mean?
Well, frankly, what we should be doing is pushing back. We should be surfacing our submarines off the Russian coast. We should be making sure the Russians know that we're present near where they, where their territorial waters extend. So, okay, coast is a bit close in, but you know what I mean, Russian territorial extent. So we need to make sure that they're aware that we are present, and that if they start messing around in a stupid way, as they are, then we have the capability to respond. But it's, in order to do that, we need to massively change the way that we buy ships. We need to completely change the way that we run the defence forces. And, you're absolutely right. We had 14 years and we didn't do it effectively. And, it was a great failure of ours. But the reality is now what we need to be doing is looking at the technology change, learning off Ukraine, learning off those countries in our alliance structures who've innovated, and learning that you can sink the Russian Navy with drones, just as Ukraine did.
And much more cheaply and safely. We are talking about cost, aren't we? And we know that it has been a £5 billion increase in defence, but frankly barely touches the size of the need. We know we've massively run down our munitions supplies, and in spite of everything really, stuff that's been sent to Ukraine, we barely had enough ourselves, and we sent it off and we haven't replaced it. And there's a big the programme of building factories in the next few years, munitions factories to actually replenish. Gosh, we should have these things ourselves anyway. But what sort of percentage of GDP, where we're heading towards 3%, even that sort of technicality, what sort of percentage of GDP and what sort of actual sums do you think we need to be spending today, now, to make ourselves safe?
Funnily enough, I'm not going to give you a number, Julian. I'm not going to give you a percent, but I can tell you there's quite a few things we could scrap and therefore actually liberate some of the capability. We're still spending on some programs that are, let's be honest, never going to come in. Never going to come in on budget. And frankly, they're out of date anyway. But they've got this sort of legacy, sort of momentum that goes with them because various people have bought into them over many, many years. And so we need to We need to be dropping them. But the other thing we need to be doing is looking at, look at our welfare, look at our pension system. We are massively overspending. And if I can leave you with one message, it's I don't think people understand quite how broke we are. We have spent and promised so much that we don't owe £1 or £2 trillion, which is the sort of the public debt estimate. We owe something like 12 or 13 when you count up all the pension liabilities that we owe, all the PFI contracts that we owe. This is a huge sum. And if we want to be sovereign, we need to decide where it is we're going to cut our spending and how it is we're going to bring this budget back in order. And if we don't, very simple, the markets will decide it for us when they stop lending us money.
And they can at any point. And we know when the cost of those 10-year gilts goes up and the interest goes. A lot of all these people saying a few years ago, oh, interest rates are virtually 0%. Let's borrow loads more money because it's so low. And then they went up again, and that's when things got really difficult. But the money markets could at any point decide that we're a bad risk. And at that point, we are going to be in a lot of trouble, aren't we?
Look, you and I suspect, have had the good fortune to buy houses in the past. Yeah. Many people will be looking at buying a house, and they'll be looking at quite reasonably what they can afford and what they want to get. And some people will overextend themselves, and some people will be cautious. And those who are cautious when things go bad will find the wiggle room to stay and to manage. And those who overextend themselves may not be their fault, but
they've got no choice to get on the housing ladder. Yeah,
that's absolutely true. That's about house building and something else. But those who are massively overextended, when the bank changes its mind, you become the victim. I'm afraid what we don't understand, or what we haven't fully understood, is that our debt, as in the people who are lending us the money, our debt is bought by foreigners. We are relying on the kindness of strangers to look at our country and think that we're a good bet 10, 20, 30 years out. Yeah. Well, I tell you what Rachel Reeves is doing today makes that bet look worse and worse.
Well, absolutely. We know the record number of Brits leaving as well. But I want to ask you also about China, the original topic we were going to speak to you about before we had all these news about Russia. No, not at all. No, it's really important. We need to see all these things. We need more joined up thinking, in not just in government, but in the discourse that we have about these issues. Oh, let's spend more on that. Let's spend more on that. No, we can't. We haven't got the money. But in terms of this warning that went out to MPs, peers, and those like my guest Claire Bissell working in Parliament, from the MI5, that basically China is targeting them, and there are these two headhunters who are back into the China spy trial territory, large financial incentives. I mean, what is China's aim here? What are they getting out of these people that they couldn't, for instance, get out of just simply watching a common select committee investigation or read a report or hear in Parliament itself?
Right. So what people are looking for, what the Chinese state are looking for, is they're looking for the kind of information that could get some leverage over you. Now, I don't particularly care. You can, my finances are public. My wife knows what I'm doing most of the time. It's not. I don't really care what you find out about me. I'm afraid I live a much more boring life.
I know. If someone wants to hack my phone, it's just shopping lists.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's who's going to pick up the kids and remember.
Can you buy milk?
I mean, it's fine if you want to know that. You can find out. But that's sort of it. But actually, I'm afraid not everybody lives as boring lives as we do, Julia. And so, if you can find something to get leverage over somebody, if you can find some sort of gossip that gives you an in, the old expression is you're looking for in intelligence, you're looking for a needle in a haystack. Yeah. Well, first you need a haystack. And what this is about building that haystack of gossip, of information, so that you can look for the combined threads that allow you to have influence over somebody. Now, MI5's warning was about MPs and people working in government. That's true. But let's be clear. I mean, I hate to say this, Julia, but people in your business, journalists can be influenced to put out. Universities, businesses, for intellectual property theft. I'm afraid this is a whole of government, whole of society attack, and we need to be aware of what it is. So I'm very, very grateful for what MI5 have done.
But meanwhile, the government, we're told, next month very likely to sign off on this Chinese mega embassy. I could see it virtually from my office with the site where it's going to be across the river, right near cables, absolutely vital confidential cables leading to the city, right at the heart of our country's capital. And apparently they're going to sign it off. I mean, that's madness, isn't it?
Well, here's a question for you, Julia. Who do you think governs Britain? Do you think it's the elected politicians who the people have decided to be there? Or do you think it's people, it's a process thing? Can you imagine if we decided we couldn't build the docks that we needed to land at Normandy because we didn't get planning permission, or we couldn't build the motorways that connected the troops from Salisbury Plain to the embarkation points because we had to wait 6 months for the planning permission for the roads. It's absurd, completely absurd. And yet here we are talking about an embassy that will tower over the Tower of London and have a huge symbolic impact on those people who want to invest or trade through the City of London. And yet we're saying, oh no, it's a planning decision. It's not a planning decision, it's a political decision. And if you don't want to make it, get out of the way and let somebody who's got the spine to do it.
Thank you for editing yourself there. Tom Tugendhat, I really appreciate you joining us, Conservative MP, former Security Minister. Quick thought from Claire Pearsall on that.
Yeah, I mean, he's quite right. So we can't hide behind planning laws for something of this nature and this seriousness. You can't use that as your excuse.
It's very interesting in Parliament right now. A government minister has said, we will not tolerate. No, sorry, it's yesterday. Sorry, we'll not tolerate Chinese spying.
Apart from they are.
I mean, you literally do. But there we are, 11:48 is the time. Up next, we're going to talk about the record number of Brits, more than 250,000 last year, who are leaving the country. We're going to talk to the former ONS statistician, Jamie Jenkins, about just how worried we should be about that. It's a happy Wednesday, folks. Don't forget P&Q's coming up at 12 as well. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Morning, welcome back to the show. This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense. 11:51 is the time. Claire Pearsall still with me, former Conservative Government Advisor. Claire, you planning to leave the country anytime soon?
No, I'm only on holiday. That's it.
That's it. It's just the holidays. Otherwise, would you ever think of leaving the country?
Yeah, I have considered it. We have looked at other countries, but it largely depends on, could you work, could you support yourself? And
that's the question. It depends. If you're young and you're starting out, you do a tech job, or if you're retired, you've got a bit of money, you can leave.
But
people
when you're in the middle and you're a bit older,
then it's difficult. Yeah. Well, the trouble is, 257,000 British nationals in last year, in the whole of January to December 2024, did decide to leave the country. Although extraordinarily, it was more than 3 times what the previous estimate was, which was just 77,000. Well, let's talk about this with former Office for National Statistics statistician Jamie Jenkins. Very good morning to you, Jamie.
Good morning, Julia. How are you doing?
Very good? Well indeed. I just want to ask, first of all, How is it that the ONS previously estimated that 77,000 people had left, and actually it's more than 3 times that? Did they just like put their finger in the wind and go, we think it's... How did they come up with a number that was so wrong?
Yeah, so historically, what we've relied on is, and I've seen them at airports, and people might have seen them themselves. When you're going out, flying into the country or flying out of the country, they would have people working different shifts, and they'd randomly ask people their intentions. So they might come up to you.
Are you
at the
leaving the
airport
country?
Yeah, they might come up to you at Heathrow, and and say to you, are you planning on going on holiday? And you might say, well, no, I'm actually going to work abroad. I'm planning on living abroad. And you would estimate the number of people coming in and the number of people going out from that kind of survey.
That doesn't seem very scientific to me.
Well, in back before the when we had computers and all the administrative data that we've got now, it was the best thing that we've got. It's a similar thing.
We've had computers quite a long time, though. I'm going to say they only changed it very recently, haven't they?
Yeah, and that's what the improvements are trying to do. So they've been embarking on, and this predates when I was at the ONS as well. They've been working on this for a while to try and look at administrative systems of the tax records and looking at GP records to try and understand where people are moving within the country as well. Yeah. To use that data to kind of move away from the survey. So they estimated 77,000, and now it's gone up to the record number.
More than 250,000, and it is a record number of people living. And who are they? Are they retirees? Are they young people? Is it just all influencers off to Dubai to post silly pictures of their duck lips? Who are they? And are we delighted they've all gone because they're all work shy, waste of spaces? Thank God they're off the payroll. Or actually, are these the people who would have been sorting the payroll, setting up businesses, earning good money, paying taxes?
So we don't get the full breakdown of who they are, but what we do have is other sources of data which kind of indicate some of the trends. So if we just look at the numbers overall, we had a record number leaving in 257,000 in the last year. Now, if you take the total of the last 4 years, Julia, it's nearly up to 1 million Brits have left. But remember, some people leave, some people come back in. So we do know that overall, though, we've seen over 300,000 net Brits have left the UK in the last 4 years. And then we get people who then track kind of with wealth surveys. They look at how many millionaires are kind of moving away. And I know this is something that people have been highlighting now, that this has been an increasing trend. But we've seen over the in 2024, there's an estimate of around 9,500 millionaires left the UK. That's projected to go up to about 16,500 in 2025. And why is that important? Because people are thinking, well, it doesn't really matter. But when you've got kind of the high taxes that we've got, if millionaires leave and they're not investing in the country, and I know people have been saying that, they're looking to get investment in the country, and they're like, the way the Labour's taxes are, we don't want to do that. If they leave and they take their business elsewhere, then that has a big impact on jobs, and we are seeing jobs falling in the UK as well. And another reason people will be leaving as well, Julian, from a business perspective, is the high energy costs. Because if you're thinking, actually, it's more profitable to move my business, say, to another country.
Literally anywhere else.
Exactly. So those are the kind of the factors. And so the budget next week, if the taxes go up again, it's probably going to act as an incentive to push more people away. And the Labour ideology as well, it doesn't really matter,
Yeah, well, sod them. There isn't there? Like, sod them, they're not patriotic. But the reality is, lots of these people, they work really hard. They may have, come from nothing. I mean, I know an awful lot of people who've done very well in life, and pretty much all of them, to a man and woman, grew up on, bog standard housing estate, went to state schools, and they've worked bloody hard, and I don't begrudge them a second of what they've earned. And they're like, I don't really want to give, and often in lots of tax brackets, more than half of what they earn to the tax man.
And that is the problem, Julia, and this is why these record numbers are important. And it's obviously there'd be other reasons people are leaving. They've just had an absolute fed up enough of what's going on in the country. And I woke up this morning, the weather is quite stormy. Maybe I should be thinking of going abroad somewhere warmer.
I have to say, I don't understand people going somewhere where it's... I just want to move to Seattle. It rains every day in Seattle. Why would you do that? Go somewhere warm at least. And lots of people might just want a nice life. And you've got people, retirees, going, do you know what? I may as well having a nice life, on the Costa del Sol or the south of France. What's not to like about that? We can understand that. And we want people to be free to do that. But we also want to have an economy and a culture in this country that says, welcome to the people who are the high flyers, who are the people who will be entrepreneurs, who'll start jobs, create the big companies, cure cancer, do all the important jobs, pay a load of tax. We want to have a society that says that. And increasingly, we're saying, nah, don't bother.
No, and what's masking the kind of this figure that we're talking about, this big net emigration of Brits, is we are seeing net immigration overall. So when we look at the figures, the population is going up. So we're losing Brits. And what's happening here is we're getting people from non-EU countries who generally do kind of lower skilled jobs as well, Julia, or no jobs at all.
Yep.
And then, so you're losing kind of skilled people, millionaires are leaving the country, and people who are coming in. So it's not like for like, and that causes that economic conundrum, which I don't think is going to get fixed under this Labour government, but sadly enough.
No, absolutely not. And that is the real concern, isn't it? And of course, what's interesting with these figures being upgraded to 250,000 Brits leaving the country, it makes it look, makes the net migration figures look better. Like, oh, actually, if we've had more people, in terms of we had a lot more people come to the country, but it's fewer than we thought. No, the same number of people have arrived. We've just had more people leave. But as you say, they're the people we want to keep.
Indeed, indeed. And hopefully one day Rachel Reeves will wake up and think, I need to change course because this.
Well, leave the Treasury is what she should do, but there we are.
Yeah, well, we had figures out, the jobs figures last week, Joe. I'll leave you with this one. The biggest percentage rises of job losses is actually in the Westminster area. So maybe we could get Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves to add themselves to the figures as well.
Absolutely. Jamie Jenkins, former ONS statistician. I mean, he's used to do the employment figures, the health figures. He understands the numbers, Claire, and that's the thing. And it is fascinating about how they work these things out and how just how inaccurate a lot of these figures are. Yeah. And it's like, but even when, remember we had that, we discovered there was 800,000 people who net migration, 1.2 million people came to the country. And literally the Home Office went, oh look, you handed the sodding visas out. You literally were in charge of giving the visas to people and you didn't know how many visas you'd given. That's terrifying.
But we don't keep records properly in this country for people who are very organised, which governments generally are. They're really bad.
Do you know what the solution is? You know what it is.
Go on.
Go on.
Digital ID.
It's digital ID cards. Tony Blair, where are you? It's always, if we had digital ID cards, we'd know, right? My thing is, like, how do you not know how many people have left the country and not come back? And how many people have entered the country and not left when they're on a 3-month visa or whatever? What is the point of you keeping charge and keeping check? Why am I queuing up at passport control when you don't keep a record of anything anyway? It's insane. It's coming up to midday. We're going to have PMQs up next. Stay tuned. This is Talk with a Home of Common Sense,
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good afternoon to you. This is Talk the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Thank you so much for listening on DAB Plus Radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube with your connected device. Really appreciate joining me. Don't forget my YouTube page, Julia Hartley-Brewer Show, is always available to you. You can hit subscribe. Never have to miss a thing. We're here until 1 o'clock. Claire Pearsall is still with me. She's a former Conservative government advisor. Also joined today because Peter Caldwell's on his well-deserved holidays. You can't get that man off air over the last few weeks. But James Mathewson is valiantly standing in, former Labour Party spokesman. Good afternoon to you, James.
Afternoon, Julia.
I feel like I should start the booing and hissing now because everyone seems to get jolly cross with you whenever you're on the show.
Outrageous, isn't it?
I know.
Outrageous.
It's a very, very nice chat. Be nice, everybody. Be nice. But they're going to be giving their tuppence worth on Prime Minister's Questions, which has just started in the House of Commons. Keir Starmer has congratulated Scotland on the football. He's also expressed his thoughts and prayers or whatever for families affected by flooding, not perhaps by the sprinkling of snow we had in London this morning. We're all going to survive that. But I'm sure an awful lot of people who work from home will, of course, be leaving early from their sofa because of the snow. We're going to be talking more about the threats in terms of Britain's inability to defend itself today. We're also going to be talking more about China. Also going to be joined by Sharon Davies, the Olympic swimmer, about her new campaign, her new basically women's sports union to basically tackle all those sports that are completely and utterly ignoring the Supreme Court ruling, making it very clear that you can't have men who pretend or think that they're women in women's sports. She wants to get them out. So we have a fair playing field for women once again. We're going to be talking to her. We're also going to be talking about the Epstein files. The Senate and Congress have, and the House of Representatives have voted for the Epstein files to be released in full once that bill is signed by Donald Trump. It should happen. Will it happen? And why didn't Donald Trump just agree to it anyway? He said he was going to do it before he was in office. And why is he defending the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia over the murder of a journalist, Khashoggi? Well, we'll talk about all of that coming up. Various MPs already asking questions on the floor of the PMQs. We'll go live to PMQs when we hear Kemi Badenoch stand up. Claire, first of all, what do you think Kemi Badenoch's going to ask about?
I think we're going to see her asking a bit more about that U-turn on the income tax increase in the budget. I think that it's going to be budget.
But what do you expect, James?
Yeah, I think it would be stupid for her not to go on the economy. It would be the obvious thing right now, and especially teeing up for the budget. But yeah. I do think that's probably their strongest area right now to go on.
Yeah, and they're desperate for it to be about the budget and be about the economy and not about immigration, which they know they're certainly legal immigration not very strong on. Certainly, we've got David Lamb, the Deputy Prime Minister, and Rachel Reeves. Actually, I think Kemi Badenoch is just standing up right now. So let's go live to the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate our side of the House with the remarks the Prime Minister made about James Elliott? Can the Prime Minister tell us why his government is the first government in history to float increasing income tax rates only to then U-turn on it all after the actual budget?
Prime Minister. I'll inform you the budget's actually next week rather than after the budget. It's only got 1 week to go. But I can tell her it'll be a Labour budget, Mr. Speaker, with Labour values. That means we will concentrate on cutting NHS waiting lists, cutting debt and cutting the cost of living. And because of the decisions we've already made, inflation is down this morning. The Bank of England have upgraded growth. We've got a record £230 billion of investment into this country under this government.
Mr. Speaker, he says the budget is next week, but we read all about it in the papers. This is the first budget to unravel before it's even been delivered. The Chancellor's cluelessness, I'm afraid, is damaging the economy now. The Prime Minister needs to end this shambles. So can he confirm today that he won't break another promise by freezing income tax thresholds?
Mr. Speaker, the budget is 1 week today and we will lay out our plans. But what we won't do, Mr. Speaker, I've said what we will do in terms of protecting the NHS and public services. What we won't do is inflict austerity on the country as they did. It's caused huge... What we won't do is inflict a borrowing spree like Liz Truss did, also inflicted and did huge damage. Mr. Speaker, have they learnt anything? She's apparently got a golden economic rule, I think. So it's a very important rule, this golden rule. That there's this £47 billion of cuts with no detail. No wonder the Institute of Government says they're on very shaky foundations. They haven't listened and they haven't learned.
Mr. Speaker, it is quite clear that they are going to freeze thresholds. We didn't get a clear answer from them, but this is really important. Because in her budget speech last year, the Chancellor said, and I quote, "I am keeping every single promise on tax that I made in our manifesto. So there will be no extension of the freeze in income tax and national insurance thresholds." Why was freezing thresholds a breach of the manifesto last year, but it isn't this year?
Mr. Speaker, every week she comes along and speculates and distorts. Last year, Mr. Speaker, last year they predicted recession. And what did we get? The fastest growing economy in the G7 in the first half of the year. They opposed NHS investment, and what do we get? 5 million extra appointments in the first year of a Labour government. They tried growing the economy with millions on NHS waiting lists, with our schools crumbling and holes in our road. It didn't work. What do they want to do now? Go back to the same failed experiment.
Mr. Speaker, he talks about speculation. The only people who've been speculating are his government every single day for the last 3 months. And he mentioned inflation in his last answer. Inflation has nearly doubled since they came into office. He wants a round of applause because it's come down a little bit. I will remind him that food inflation is up 4.9%. That is making life miserable for all of those people out there. But let's go back to thresholds, because this is important. When the Chancellor made that promise to unfreeze the thresholds, it wasn't an off-the-cuff comment. She said it on the floor of this House in her budget speech. That was a deliberate statement of government policy. So if she breaks such a clear promise, how can the public trust a word that she says next week?
Mr. Speaker, she talks about inflation. It went to 11% on that. 11%, and the country is still paying the price. Inflation is down this morning, wages are up, and we've had 5 interest rate cuts, and that's because our fiscal rules are ironclad. And the Leader of the Opposition and the party opposite have no credibility on the economy. She was Treasury Minister during the worst decline in living standards on record. And she said that Liz Truss got the mini-budget 100% right. Not much room for flexibility there. 100%, that's pretty full marks, Mr. Speaker. She might want to tell us if that's still her position, 100% right for Liz Truss.
Mr. Speaker, I was Treasury Minister at the height of the pandemic. We cleaned up that mess. Maybe he could clean up some of his own mess. And I'm going to repeat what the Chancellor said, because it's quite clear that the whole front bench has forgotten. She said, "I have come to the conclusion that extending the threshold freeze would hurt working people. It would take more money out of their pay slips, and yet that's what they're planning to do next week." And all of this speculation is having real-world consequences. Just this morning, the UK chair of ExxonMobil said, and I quote, "The government needs to understand that the whole industrial base of the UK is at risk unless they wake up and realise the damage their economic policies are doing." Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister tell us, is the loss of UK industry the price the country has to pay for having a clueless Chancellor?
Mr. Speaker, let me just say about ExxonMobil, it is a difficult time for the workforce there, and we must focus on supporting them. We've been meeting the company for over 6 months and explored every possible reasonable avenue. They've been facing losses for the last 5 years. It's best to do the detail before you chunter. And they're currently losing £1 million a week. But she talks about policy and approach. On energy policy, she follows reform. On the European Convention, she follows the man who wants her job. And when her shadow minister said we should deport people lawfully here to achieve cultural coherence. She pretended that it didn't happen. I could go on. She was the Trade Secretary that didn't sign any trade deals. Cheerleader for the mini-budget, cheerleader for open borders, and when they were crashing the economy, botching Brexit and running down the NHS, she was right at the centre. She hasn't got an ounce of credibility.
Mr. Speaker, on energy policy, what we are doing is listening to industry. What happened, I had a round table.
Ms. Slinger, please. We don't want to have to sling you out.
Mr. Speaker, just this morning, we heard from the chair of one of our largest energy companies. Last week, I had a roundtable with energy companies, and what they had to say about this Prime Minister and his energy secretary is unprintable. They are absolutely furious. Our oil and gas industry is dying, and he's standing there saying he had meetings. People out there are struggling, Mr. Speaker. The budget chaos is causing real anxiety. People aren't buying houses, businesses aren't hiring, and they are cancelling investment decisions. 2 weeks ago, the Chancellor called a ridiculous press conference to blame everyone else for her having to raise income tax. Then last week, she U-turned on her own U-turn. Instead, we can see they're planning to freeze income tax thresholds, something she said last year would be a breach of their manifesto. They are making it up as they go along. Doesn't the country deserve better than government by guesswork?
Mr. Speaker, either we renew our country with Labour or we go back to austerity 2.0 with reform of the Tories. They left waiting lists at record highs, almost 1 million more children in poverty, and they wrecked our public services. She comes here to talk down the country. We're turning the page. More NHS appointments, free breakfast clubs, free childcare, more homes and better public services. That's what we're fighting for, a Britain built for all.
Lord Hatton.
Well, that was a rather brisk and terse exchange between the Prime Minister over the 6 questions from Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the official opposition. Claire Pissell, as a former Conservative government advisor, watching that, also alongside James Mathewson, former Labour Party spokesman. Let me come to you first, Claire. I mean, she was a bit wrong-footed at first, Kemi Badenoch, wasn't she? She said, this all happened after the budget. No, it's before the budget. Yeah. She's obviously just not quite on top of it. But when she was quoting Rachel Reeves on the thresholds, the so-called stealth taxes that aren't stealthy anymore, because we know about them. You moved into a higher tax bracket on your marginal income. That was pretty damning, wasn't it? And there wasn't, I don't think, any even attempt at an answer from the Prime Minister.
No, the Prime Minister said an awful lot of words in return. But Kemi Badenoch made the point that the Chancellor said last year at the budget that it would be a breach of manifesto to freeze those thresholds any further. So Kemi Badenoch has turned that around and said, this is what she said last year, so why is it not applying now for this budget? And she was a bit wrong-footed to begin with, but she recovered that sort of relatively quickly.
Do you think she laid a glove on him?
Not hugely. I think this is all just picking away ahead of a budget, so it's just adding to the pressure that they feel.
Yeah, and let's face it, James Mathewson, you're a former Labour Party spokesman. I know no longer even a member of the Labour Party, James. I'll make that clear to people. May become clear in our conversation as well. That ahead of a budget, we told you we wouldn't expect the Prime Minister or the Chancellor to give any information, apart from the fact, of course, as Kemi Badenoch pointed out, the only people who are speculating on the budget are actually the government themselves.
That's true. Kemi Badenoch, I just don't know what's going on there with they've got the pattern down now. They know that they need to stick to the same question for all of them, and they need to kind of have that through thread that runs through. But it just seems like she kind of goes off topic a bit through the middle, and she gets defensive and she doesn't keep it on the offence. And I don't know why that is.
It's sort of like those Netflix series that start really, really well, and then you're thinking, this should be in a 4-parter, not an 8-parter.
Exactly, yeah. She, we saw it on the energy policy thing, for example. Starmer mentioned that, and she couldn't help herself. She had to be like, well, actually, what we're doing is, no. Yeah. You don't need to be talking about what you're doing. You're not in government.
Well, there was a point I thought the Speaker might. I mean, he usually puts something at tuppence worth in, doesn't he? Sir Lindsay Hoyle, all speakers do during PMQs, and I'm here, look at me, know me. But it was interesting at one point when Keir Starmer asked a question of her, and the normal form is, this isn't, leader of the opposition questions, it's Prime Minister questions. But let's go back to that quote, because the key thing she was talking about was, basically, they've U-turned on income tax rises, there's chaos, there's too much speculation. As she said, this is government by guesswork, making it up as they go along. But that key quote from Rachel Reeves' budget last year, said on the floor of the House of Commons in a speech that had been gone through a million times, it wasn't an off-the-cuff remark in an interview, she said, Rachel Reeves, as quoted by Kemi Badenoch, I have come to the conclusion that extending the threshold freeze would hurt working people. Now, that was something the Tories had already done. It's been done by many a government in the past. She said, though, quoting Rachel Reeves, it will take more money out of their pay slips. Given that everybody expects that the Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is going to next week, this time, almost exactly this time next week, basically extend those thresholds by another couple of years to 2030, then that is Labour admitting that they will take more money out of pay slips. And also, she said earlier, it was a manifesto promise that they wouldn't do that. So she's breaking a manifesto pledge.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be even that bothered about it, because they've already lost all credibility on things like that, let's be honest, on things they've said they wouldn't do, that they've ended up doing, on any kind of promise to kind of be fiscally responsible, then changing the fiscal rules every 5 minutes. Nobody seems to know what they are or what it means. I do think the strongest line by Kemi this time around is the government by guesswork.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with that in the lotto in the leader of the opposition's office will get, they certainly won't get a pay rise. That's politics, unfortunately, but they should get a bit of credibility.
They'll get a cream egg as a prize. But that's we love a bit of austerity. I mean, sort of austerity. Well, I say we don't love a bit of austerity. We love a little bit of alliteration, don't we? In these insults. But making it up as they go along. That is the general impression. Now, I mean, I think you were in the Labour Party, when they weren't in government. So one of the strongest impressions I do get is that there was a general view, well, the Tories are bad, evil people, they're incompetent, and also the civil service are working against them. That's been the view for the last few years. But when we're in, we'll have the civil service on side, we'll have the public sector unions on side. We're much more competent, and we're the good people, and it'll all be quite easy. It seems to me they've all been, including the Prime Minister and the Chancellor, quite shocked by how hard governing is.
Well, you just need to go back to what Keir Starmer promised in his leadership bid for the control of the party. And that is a million miles away, unrecognisable from what this government.
Give us some examples for those of us who've got lives.
I mean, he said he would maintain most of the policies that were in the 2019 manifesto.
Corbynista, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, none of them are there now.
Well, that's it. People always forget. Labour Party members thought they were electing a left winger.
Yeah, 100%. He was about continuity. He wasn't about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I think was the expression at the time. And it was about trying to keep some of those policies that, by the way, I maintain, and while people who don't like left-wing politics, of course, would say, oh, it's too ideological, Corbyn was too ideological. That's why we lost 2 general elections. However, having no ideology at all, which is where they are right now, having no indication what they stand for or represent, is even worse than that, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree with you more. I don't have an issue with anyone being ideological. It's just whether ideology is coherent and sane, which Corbyn's wasn't. Claire Pearsall, it is interesting. I mean, as James says, look, Labour have lost all credibility on this issue anyway, so it's almost kind of written in. I mean, Kemi Badenoch made the point, but businesses aren't investing, they're not hiring people, they're not buying homes right now because they don't know what's going to happen to the market. I can almost argue, I buy a home now rather than God knows what's going to happen in the future. Yeah. I mean, but consumers aren't spending, businesses aren't investing because it is a lot of the damage of this next budget already baked in.
I think what's more damaging is all of the speculation that we've had. And it's not just speculation from people like us. This has been the Chancellor of the Exchequer giving a random press conference early on a Monday morning, telling us that it's all going to be difficult, but it's also all going to be all right at the same time. Those two things can't be true. Yeah. So the markets don't have confidence. Therefore, consumers
and we saw the cost of government lending go up as a result.
Yeah, and it's all of those very complicated things. And what people actually look at is how much they're paying for milk, bread, butter, eggs in the supermarket, and they can see that increasing. Their confidence is low. They're not going to go and splash out so near to Christmas on anything. So therefore, you're going to have a downturn in the economy. So it's damaging before before we've even got there.
I mean, part of the problem, James, isn't it? Our economy's been running on consumers just spending for many years. I remember when we were saying, oh, we need people to save more and spend less. But now they're going, no, for the God's sake, spend. But, I mean, the reality is, I mean, when the Prime Minister comes back and saying, look, you know, inflation's coming down, I mean, it's 3.6%, you know, and as we know, food inflation is higher than that, and stuff, you know, energy inflation and the like is coming down, interest rates coming down and things like, and you know, but you know, unemployment's also going up, wages aren't going up by the same amount. When he throws around these figures, it might sound good sometimes as a technicality. It's not what people are actually experiencing in their own lives.
No, and it's a lack of humanity. And look, I would never expect to be standing here saying that the Labour Party sounds less human than the Tories. But when you've got Kemi Badenoch, she had more passion in her voice. She had 10 times more passion in her voice when she said that food inflation, you know, she got quite fiery with it. She said food inflation, the cost of living out there, people are suffering. I'm like, am I right? Am I watching the right thing here? I'm seeing a Tory with more human emotion than a Labour Prime Minister.
Well, you've got Shabana Mahmood being invited to join the Reform Party. I mean, we've had this hilarious tweet where the Reformer put out a picture of Shabana Mahmood in her bedroom with, you know, Reform T-shirts, Reform flags and the like. And she's retweeted it saying, you know, over my dead body.
And she thinks this kind of being aggressive and all of it. I tell you what it is, Julia. It's performative cruelty. That's what we're seeing from them. They're trying to dress up like they're the hard person. Shabana Mahmood wants to sound like, you know, she can strip jewellery. All this, you know, rhetoric of things that will never happen. They're not going to do that.
Even the Danes haven't done that.
But the very fact that they're letting people think they might, that's the whole point of it. And they want to try and sound like something that everybody knows they are not. And the only thing that happens then is you vote for the genuine article, which is Nigel Farage. If you don't like immigration, if you're anti-immigration generally, you're going to vote for Farage. You're not going to vote as the person dressing up as him.
Well, I mean, that is a very fair point. Here's the thing, though. I mean, I must ask you, just for your own political views. I mean, big conversation about, you know, getting rid of illegal migrants, cutting down the number of appeals, and people not being able to have the right to stay here indefinitely after just 5 years, up to 20 years. But also row over the last 24 hours about whether children born to illegal migrants here or failed asylum seekers, whether they'd be deported as well. And it seems to be rather obvious if the parents are thrown out, they would take their kids with them, unless we're talking about separating kids. Do you have an issue with that, or is that performative cruelty as well?
Yeah, of course I've got an issue with it. I've got an issue with the whole thing because I just don't like it, Julia. It's not my priority. It's not my priority.
Well, it's not your priority. It's a priority for an awful lot of people.
That's a priority of many people, of course it is. I recognise that. That's why we have a democracy and they can vote for what they want, but it is not my priority. I do not believe in...
Why do you think it's a bad thing for us to send people who have no right to be here, either arriving illegally or overstaying on their legal right to be here, sending them home?
We see examples of case studies every single day of people who get caught up in that, who should be given the right to be here. Asylum
when did we last see that? I haven't seen that.
Asylum is a right that's international, you know, and that it should be recognised as such. If we're going to strip that away, because we can't, I've said this before, it is a very pathetic thing for a government to say, we can't handle this, we can't manage this. Well, you need to be able to, I'm afraid. And it's exactly the same with the challenge of reform and the right and trying to challenge them. Stop aping them. Stop trying to copy them. They're doing that. They've got it down to a T. You need to do your thing, and you need to take the fight to them. When have we lost the fight from politics, Julia?
Yeah, well,
you need to be able to take the fight and make
and you have a clear debate between two sides. But here's the thing, Claire, I mean, your party, Conservatives, have also been, you know, basically, you know, following along, trailing on the skirts of reform as well on this. But I mean, the thing is, I think most sane people in Labour have realised now that you can't make an argument for just having an open door policy.
And that's it. And it's how you present that to everybody. But I think the strangest thing has happened. The Conservative Party has moved ever rightward to chase reform. The Labour Party are also now moving ever right to prove that
I don't think they're moving right. I think the centre ground is we don't have open borders and anyone who wants to come here can stay.
They're moving. They are moving.
Hold on a minute, James.
They are moving to the right from where they were. And it's people like James is going to find that very difficult because he's coming into my sphere of politics and we almost agree on things.
Yeah, indeed. But James, this is the thing. I mean, it's not a controversial view to say we should have border controls and we shouldn't allow people with no right to be here to remain here. That's not controversial to most people in this country, whether left or right.
No, but also it's not to you, Julia, because you know that's your opinion, and I get it, and that's fine.
No, it's a fact that it's not. That's not a controversial view, and it wasn't a controversial view 20 years ago.
But that's not what we're just talking about.
But you're just saying that's right wing, and it's cruel, performative cruelty.
as you know, as Claire's pointed out, it's about how you present these things. It's the language with which you talk about them. Every single person knows, every one of your viewers and listeners right now knows that the Labour Party at its core believes in migration as a concept, right? And whether you think, yes, of course.
What do you mean as a concept? Concepts.
It's not about.
Concepts don't matter. No, the reality. When you see, you can again. It's like being anti-immigration, pro-immigration. Most people in this country are opposed to illegal immigration and unlimited mass immigration. That's different from being opposed to immigration or migration as a concept.
But we know that these issues are complex, right? And we know that often
they are
together.
actually.
No, they are for a lot of people to grasp. I have the conversations with people every week and they don't know what they're on about, right? It's very difficult for people to wrap their head around the nuances of immigration and migration. What are students, where do students fall into? Why are Eritrean students being targeted in County Durham and getting bottles thrown at them in the street when they've come here?
Don't want anything like that. But,
things like that. Why are they getting grouped in with it? But the problem is because of the rhetoric. That's the problem. Everybody knows what the Labour Party stands for at its core, and you can either vote for it or you can not, and not support it if you want. That's fine. But why are they pretending to be something else? As Claire says, they've all shifted to the right, and it leaves lots of people who have views to the left of politics, Julia.
Yeah. And you've got plenty of parties to choose from. There's Jezbollah and there's the Greens. They can have a great time. I'm going to have to leave it there because I'm way over time, James. I'm so sorry, my love. I've got to go to some calls. Want to go to some calls. James Mathewson, former Labour Party spokesman. Thank you very much. Just finally, Claire, it was a bit of a PMQs, even though actually quite interesting that someone's actually bothered to go back and read what Rachel Reeves said last year at her budget and realise that she is just so blatantly saying what I'm going to do next week is going to be a manifesto breach and will hurt working people.
Yeah, this is just a placeholder of PMQs. We're waiting for next week's PMQs, then the budget. Then it's
PMQs on budget day is a complete waste of time. It really is.
We should cancel.
Yeah. I'm not even sure we'll bother with it. Actually, but anyway, 12:28 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to get to your calls. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:32 is the time now. I've got a guest waiting to chat to me, Sharon Davies, about that battle for women's sport. First up, I'm going to squeeze in a couple of calls. Andrew's on the line in Hertfordshire. Andrew, you want to talk about defence, don't you? What do you want to say?
Yeah, morning. The primary object of any government is the protection of its citizens.
Yep.
And we've just sold it down the river. So defence spending should be a priority, and then law and order. And unfortunately, we've got a great NHS. Apparently, we pay money out. We just need to realign this. Take 60 million out of the NHS, tell them to deliver the same service for less money, and get on with it.
Well, at the moment, they're delivering a worse service for more money. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. There comes an inflection point where you just say, right, no, we're going to take money out, and you have to deliver the same service or better. Yeah. And the other thing in relation to Russia, it's so interesting. If the Falklands happened tomorrow, if Argentina rocked across there on cruise ships, we couldn't defend it.
Yep.
The reason that he makes that statement is he hasn't got a ship, a warship, a frigate. He hasn't got a submarine that can go up there and scare Russia.
Yep.
We are caught with our trousers down, for want of a better expression.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. It's absolutely terrifying. Again, people don't want money spent on defence. An awful lot of, government ministers don't, because, people count nurses and teachers and they don't feel the benefit of defence. Yeah, well, we'll need to feel it very, very soon. It's very, very clear the threats that are there. Thank you very much for that, Andrew. Let's go to Grace in London. Grace, you want to talk about our conversation about flags and a police chief saying that flags are being put up and they're divisive and they're intimidating people.
Well, they are evidently divisive, and what I mean by that is not that they shouldn't be put up or that they're wrong necessarily. What I'm saying is that clearly people have very different opinions on them. So some people have an opinion on them that you think is absurd, and some other, some people agree with you about them. So clearly people are divided, and I think that symbols have continually meant different things to different people and changed their meanings. I mean, I think of the swastika, for example. It goes back to ancient Hinduism, I think, but obviously it became appropriated for the horrors of Nazism. So, I mean, when I see the flag, I remember how ultimately St. George had a cross because Jesus died on a cross for our sin, but now it means that the flag means very different things to people about national pride. Yeah. And so I think that because symbols mean very different things to different people and people can misunderstand each other,
look, the thing is, I'm not Scottish. I've got no Scottish blood in me as far as I'm aware, but I'm not in any way intimidated or think that the Scottish flag is divisive. I look at that flag, I think, oh, good on you. Football, whether it's in a major, Scottish event, brilliant. It doesn't. I believe I own a Scottish flag put up for a World Cup at home once for my Scottish mates. I mean, I think it's very strange. I'm not intimidated or feel excluded by someone putting a French flag up when I'm in France or an American flag up when I'm in America. So why on earth would someone in this country who presumably has chosen to be here, either born here, chosen to live here, or has visited here, would they be bothered by seeing a flag of the country they are in?
Well, it will be partly because of how they have seen some people use it in their experience. You might not have had those particular experiences.
But that's about our need to reclaim our flag for everyone.
Possibly. But, I think also that always you're going to have symbols being understood differently by different people. So things like talk are great because it's good to actually use words sometimes, and symbols are not necessarily always the clearest way of communicating.
That's very interesting. Grace, thank you. Really interesting call. Thank you very much. Claire's nodding away. 12:36 is the time. I'm going to take a quick break. Then we're going to be talking about why Sharon Davies, who's been a fantastic campaigner for women's sport, is setting up a women's sports union, basically to make sure that women's sport is for... This is a mad idea. Only women and girls. I know. Who came up with that idea? We'll talk about that with her next. This is Talk.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense. 12:38 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer, Claire Pearsall still with me. I'll get your thoughts on what my next guest has to say. But I think we all remember, don't we, the Supreme Court ruling back in April. And everyone said, right, that's done. Piers Morgan's written a whole book about how woke is dead. I can't believe how wrong he is so far on that. But about basically, you know, you're not allowed to have men who claim they're women or think that they're women in women-only spaces, whether it's a toilet, whether it's a prison, whether it's a changing room, whether it's women's sport. No, therefore, women. How do we define women? By biological sex. And yet, many sports, despite some very encouraging work from the International Olympic Committee we've had in the last few weeks, still persist in allowing men to compete against women in women's sports. Well, someone has decided they're going to do something about it. That woman, of course, is Sharon Davies, the Olympic medalist swimmer, author of Unfair Play, The Battle for Women's Sport, and now the new co-founder of Women's Sport Union. A very good afternoon to you.
Look. There we are. Look, there's our lovely logo.
Yeah, baby. That's what we like to see.
Yeah, Women's Sports Union. And the lovely Tracy Edwards, who you didn't mention there, is my co-founder.
Yeah, the Around the World Yacht Woman.
Fame, absolutely.
I have to say, I pity the men who are going to go, or the men who think they're women, going to come up against you two women, because well, I reckon you're a force to be reckoned with. Tell us why you're doing this, because we had this Supreme Court ruling and we all went, job done.
No, absolutely, job not done. So we desperately want people to come and either donate or join as members, private members, donate anonymously if you want to, but come and help us so that we can fight back, because there are still 34 sports here in the UK that are not protecting the female category. And when we say not protecting the female category, we're talking about grassroots, we're talking about juniors, you know, we're talking about recreational. So 1% of the elite is the compromise that they've made, you know, so these women over here are good enough, we might protect them, but all these women over here, they're not good enough, so we're not going to protect them. And that is the bit that's just grossly unfair. I was so upset this morning, you know, the BBC, typical, right? The UK Cycling have brought out a list of the 100 most inspirational female cyclists in this country. And their story was all about the 4 women that had a problem with that. Not the 96 that didn't, but the 4 women that went, oh, well, we can't have this, can we? Because there's no men on this list. And it's like, but cycling is such a male-dominated sport. Here are these amazing women that are promoting women's cycling. Please, let's just celebrate them.
But also, wasn't it our women cyclists who actually were pretty instrumental? I mean, I think it was last year when they're the ones who said, we just won't compete then if you're going to have men competing. Because you made it very clear, the male advantage is the fact that women have pelvic bones and bodies designed to create babies, and therefore we don't have that straight angle over the pedals. That's my excuse for being a rubbish cyclist anyway. I'm using it forever. But there's a clear male advantage for cycling, as there is in virtually every sport. Every sport. And therefore the women just went, we won't compete then. And they basically called the bluff of the organisers. And there is a lot of people saying, why don't the women and the girls, whether it's school sports, county sports, whether it's, you know, the park run or whatever it is, why they say, why don't the women just refuse to play? What's the answer to that?
Because, Julie, they are so intimidated into this, and they are so browbeaten with the be kind, and no one is being kind to the female athletes. Yep. And the CEOs of these organisations, it is their job to uphold the law. So you mentioned the Supreme Court ruling. That is the law, no guidance that hasn't been issued yet. Yeah. The law is the law right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to remind these organisations that they are responsible for protecting the female category. They cannot keep shirking their responsibility. They cannot keep being frightened of a DEI officer with purple hair on their board. They, as the CEOs, need to stand up for the law. And if they won't do it, we will start going after the individual CEOs who aren't doing their jobs. We will also...
And will that be in the civil courts, in criminal courts? What?
So initially it's just going to be to say to them, look, it's your responsibility to do this. So we're going to try and do this in phases, right? We don't want to take people to court. Of course we don't. We just want people to do what they're supposed to be doing, you know, abiding by the law. And also what they're also not doing is that their insurance is null and void. So if they're not abiding by the law, the public liability insurance no longer will hold up in court. So that also needs to be emphasised to them, which is one of the reasons why the FA decided to protect the female category, okay? So we need to point all these things out, and we're going to ask nicely yet again for people to do what they should be doing, and we're going to pinpoint those whose job is absolutely to apply by the law. Yeah. And then if we can't get them to do things without going back into the courts, which we've seen so many women have to do, then that's what we will do.
And that's where you need funds, you need the support, you need people. I mean,
Need
we've seen
funds.
that.
We need people to help us so that we
people
can be
will actually
this
support it. I mean, I'm
There
sure
are so many-
one J.K. Rowling would surely be willing to help you. She's been a fantastic supporter of this. But this is the thing. Often when this is framed as a debate in media, and again, BBC being always the worst offenders on this, it's always framed as some poor, they say trans woman, so a poor man who often is completely intact, no puberty blockers, nothing, but a man who claims he's a woman, who was average in the male sport, now doing quite well in the women's sport, what with being 6 foot and having testosterone and having gone through male puberty, what a surprise, beating a load of 5 foot tall women. But how this person is being forced out of sport. And it's always framed in that way, as opposed to...
And they're not.
But the point is actually, for every one supposedly trans-identified athlete who's forced out, which they're not, because they can go and play against the men that they are also, but it's the number of women and girls who are forced out.
So women and girls are self-excluding. We know this on a huge number. Rather than actually be up against boys or feel like nobody's got their back or they're having to change in a changing room with a man standing in the corner watching them, they are literally just they stop doing it. And so the exclusion is women from women's sport, women and girls. I mean, I had a father who had a daughter who played football. She was 15 years old, and because she was made to play against boys, she was self-harming. And I said to him, why don't you do the other fathers feel the same way? And she said yes. I said, so why don't you come together and just say no? And he said, well, I can't. We can't do that. We're worried about the comeback on our daughters. And you just think, oh my goodness. So if that's you, please, we will be your mouthpiece. We will do all the hard work. Come and support.
You can do it. Come to us. We'll keep it anonymous. It won't be that John Smith,
It can be totally anonymous
Kelly's
if you
dad
want
said
to.
this. But this is the thing. And again, I've said to you before, I always thought that once the dads got involved when it came to their daughters, whether it's the change rooms, but particularly on sport, the men would go, yeah, we're not bothered with this. I do think a lot of women, obviously I don't suffer from it, worry about people thinking they're nice people as opposed to doing the right thing. But doing the right thing by women, but doing the right thing by your own daughter. Come on, this is bare minimum stuff.
What we really have to understand is that in the world of sport, women have 5% of the sponsorship dollar, right? We have this tiny, tiny piece of the cake.
Barely any of the coverage.
Every story in a national newspaper for a women's sport, there are 20 for men.
Yeah.
So we have this little tiny space, and then we're told we're not even allowed to have it fair sport anymore.
Yeah.
Men would never put up with their sport being removed and being told that they can't.
And by the way, the trans-identified women who believe that they are men or dress as if they're men, weirdly, are not forcing their way into men's sport. Why would that be?
Nearly 900 medals we can show at the moment that have been won in elite sport by men identifying as women. And most of those are in sport where there's a big financial benefit.
What a surprise. But this is the thing. People say, oh, it's only a few people. Why don't you just be nice? And it's not just a few people. It's on a
and it affects
scale.
everybody, from grassroots up. So we also find, like in recreational sports like golf and tennis, where you've got club competitions, what happens is that they turn up and these club ladies find they're all of a sudden being made to play against the man and they just don't want to do it. So they just stop going.
Yeah.
So it has to be at every level, because it isn't very fair to say elite women are worth protecting, but the rest of women are not.
We're all hoping, of course, what Donald Trump did, people could be fans of Donald Trump or not, but what Donald Trump did in terms of protecting girls' sport, in schools, universities, and he said very clearly, to the International Olympic Committee, when the Olympics come over to LA, we're just not going to be letting the trans athletes in. And the IOC is basically folded. And that's one of the reasons they folded. As soon as you stand up to these people, you've got the public on your side, you've got biological reality on your side, and you've got fairness on your side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, isn't it disappointing, though, 10 years ago, the IOC threw women's sport away against all of the known science. They literally turned around and said their stance was, we do not accept that there's any biological advantage to being male. That's what their stance was 10 years ago. And yet we've got every result ever in the whole of history to show us that.
Absolutely. Can I just check? I'm going to put it out on Twitter, but he sent it to me, WhatsApp me. But in terms of... So this is Women's Sports Union. Where can people find you to help out and contribute and maybe get you to help?
You'll find us online. We're popping up now straight away the moment you put us in, Women's Sports Union, or you can look at my Twitter as well and you'll find me there and you'll direct us there. But you'll find us.
Brilliant. Fantastic work. Sharon, you're just a top. You're a top bird. Am I allowed to say that? She's a top bird. Sharon Davies there, who's started alongside, we mustn't leave her out again, Tracy Edwards. I remember interviewing, Tracy Edwards. I mean, about 30 years ago, good Lord, as setting up the Women's Sports Union. Claire, I'm sure you'll be fully behind this.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We cannot sit by and let grassroots sport for women just be completely taken over.
Sport for women has only just kind of taken off properly in the last 10 years, trying to encourage your kids to do it and then going...
Precisely, and why should women miss out on a sport that they love and are probably very good at as well?
Absolutely.
No, I'm well up for that one.
I like to say I've taken up golf this year, and I have to say, anyone, man or woman, could beat me. But there we are. 12:48 is the time. Up next, what on earth? We talked about Trump there with women, but what on earth is going on when it comes to the Epstein files? And indeed, why is the American president defending the murderous Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia? Yes, who did order the murder, according to his own CIA, of a journalist. That's up next. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Afternoon, this is Talk, the Home of Common Sense, for me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Claire Pistol still with me, joined right now by the Chairman of Republicans Overseas UK. It's Greg Swenson. Afternoon to you, Greg.
Good. Hello, Julia. Good to see you.
Love to see you as well. Let's talk about the Epstein files first of all. Finally, we're going to see the Epstein files released. Donald Trump had promised that he would release them and then said he wouldn't. Marjorie Taylor, what's her last name? Green. I've got absolute blank on her name though, completely randomly. Brain fog. She's been campaigning on behalf of the Epstein victims, fallen out with Donald Trump as a result. We had Congress, both houses, voting yesterday to go forward. Trump's going to sign it. The bill, but none of that's even necessary. He could have just released these Epstein files anytime he wanted, couldn't he?
I don't think so, Julia. I think there's some process involved. And so, the president, he definitely flipped on it. As you pointed out, he campaigned on, the idea that he was going to release them and sort of made a big deal about it, changed his mind. Yeah. And then has more recently, flipped back. So, I'm sort of glad it's almost over.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you think he flipped both times?
Well, I mean, definitely pressure within his own party. That's for sure. I don't think it's the fact that the Democrats were behind it. They had the files for 4 years while Biden was president and didn't do anything about it. So the fact that they sat on it for years. So I don't think he would have changed his mind because of the pressure from the left, but he definitely had some pressure from the right.
Yeah, and did the sort of MAGA crowd saying, no, this is something we're going to do. Now, everyone's absolutely convinced that, the person they most hate or despise is going to be fingered in these Epstein files. Look, we've certainly seen an awful lot of damage as was Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, as he's known now, who's, lost all his titles, lost his house, you name it, totally and utterly now exposed by those Epstein files, exposing just the lie upon lie about his relationship with him. An awful lot of very important men, including President Clinton as well, implicated, we know, in terms of logs on, travelling on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. Clinton's always denied he actually went to the island, but a lot of people have been pointing fingers. How damaging do you think this is all going to be? And do you think anything will be damaging for Donald Trump, who says he broke off relationships with him many, many years ago because he thought he was a wrong-un?
Yeah, two answers. One is I don't think there'll be much any major surprises. The big names have already been exposed. Bill Clinton, and of course, Larry Summers, the former Treasury Secretary and president of Harvard. So, but there could be more detail about them. So it might not be, front page news, but it might just be more damage. And in fact, Larry Summers announced in the last few days that he's stepping back from public appearances. He's quite a good speaker and does a lot of the lecture circuit. So, look, there could be some more damaging news about people we already know about. As far as the president, absolutely zero. There will be nothing about the president.
But then why wouldn't he have released it anyway? Or is there that question mark? A lot of people saying that Epstein, had so many links with government, CIA or whatever, in which case he was being protected by, the deep state.
There could be some security issues. I'm very suspicious of the CIA and the FBI, given what they've done the last 10 years. But I do think that, there could be some issues. Maybe it's the same reason as the Democrats didn't release them, but I don't know. And I guess we'll find out. I have a feeling we might be disappointed that there's nothing.
I have a funny feeling that may be the case. I mean, you certainly weren't disappointed in the press conference yesterday when Donald Trump was with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, when quite extraordinarily, he told a reporter from ABC off for asking a perfectly pertinent question about him and his family having dealings with Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince, and him welcoming him to the White House, when his own CIA, during Trump's first term, had found that it was their view that the Crown Prince not only knew but probably ordered the murder of the Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi in the Saudi embassy in Istanbul back in, I think, 2018. I mean, the journalist got a right old telling off. He later actually referred to another journalist calling her piggy, telling her to be quiet on Air Force One. We see this quite a lot with Donald Trump, particularly to female reporters, has got to be said, but telling off reporters for asking questions and for, in his words yesterday, embarrassing his guest. But it's a legitimate question to ask, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is a legitimate question. I'm not sure about the timing of it. And I think the president...
What would be the correct timing? And when else do they get a chance to ask the dictator, the murderous dictator of Saudi Arabia, a question?
Perhaps when he's not in the room. I think the president is very transparent. He does press, off the cuff press conferences all the time. He is really transparent. So I think that question is legitimate. There's no secret he doesn't like some of the legacy media. I don't think it's a woman thing. I mean, he did a one-on-one with Bev Turner last week, and he's very respectful to women reporters. But he's very...
Who ask him nice questions. I'm a big fan of Bev's, but I mean...
He's frustrated by,
But
CNN.
it's a legitimate question. I mean, you can... I completely disapprove of a lot of BBC reporting. Yeah. It would be a legitimate question from the BBC. It'd be a legitimate question from Pravda, for goodness sake.
I don't think it was an illegitimate question. I just think it was bad timing.
So it's the job of the free press in a democracy to not embarrass a murderous dictator.
Well, no,
I didn't think that was my job.
No, I'm not saying that, she should be censored. I'm not suggesting that.
Well, then you're saying she shouldn't have asked the question.
He has a personal issue with some of the reporters, notably the legacy media, who have been...
No, he told her off the question. You're saying perhaps she shouldn't have asked that question at that time. I would say at the time when the Crown Prince is sitting there next to the democratically elected president of the United States, that's exactly the right time to ask the question.
Yeah. Well, no, that's fine if you think so, but I think that he's got some scar tissue with some of the legacy media.
So what?
And they've been real, they have not been fair to him over the.
No, they haven't been fair to him, but that was still a fair question.
Yeah, no, it was. It was a fair question, and he didn't
at the right time. I mean, look, the Crown Prince. I mean, he made some comments.
The Crown Prince sitting there.
The Crown Prince sitting there in a